criminalising children unnecessarily, these children to be specific, and he even praised two of them for their conduct. I think they should have been named as a very sort of base default case going forward. They're of course granted anonymity because they're children. Name these children, and Lord Hermer, I think, is investigating the sentence. More on that after the break.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, pretty grubby story here for you now. I apologise, but it's important we cover it. 3 teenage boys were spared custodial sentences over the rape of 2 girls in a case that's united all those across the political spectrum in condemnation. 2 girls, then aged 15 and 14, were raped in separate incidents in Hampshire in November 2024 and January 25 by 2 14-year-old boys. Another boy, who was then 13, was also convicted for his involvement in the second attack. At the subsequent sentencing hearing in court for the boys, Judge Nicholas Rowland said he wanted to avoid criminalising these children unnecessarily and that they'd behaved well. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch said on Friday that she was sickened by the case, and the Prime Minister said it was right that the sentences given down at Southampton Crown Court were currently being reviewed by Attorney General Lord Hermer. The Attorney General, by the way, good to see he's finally doing something useful, will now have 28 days to decide whether the sentences should be referred to the Court of Appeal, as the family of the victims say the sentences amount to a slap on the wrist. With me now is campaigner and writer on prison reform, David Shipley. David, good morning. Thanks for joining the Late Show Live. What a horrible, tragic, infuriating case. And by the way, is there any process where judges can be looked at where they have given, just completely inane, nonsensical sentences?
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrific case. You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, there is no formal process that's followed for reviewing the positions of judges. In theory, the House of Parliament could boot them out whenever it wanted, but that has never happened. I think what's worth remembering here as well.
What's the process in Parliament? Sorry to interrupt, David. There's a bit of a delay. So, what is the process for removing a judge? I know nothing about it.
Oh, so essentially, both houses of Parliament do what's called a humble address to the King, in which they say, we want this judge removed, and they can be removed. It is a process which exists, which the judiciary recognise exists, but it hasn't been used, as far as I'm aware, ever.
OK, interesting. With reference to this case, Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, Keir Starmer's good friend, he has 28 days to decide whether to send it to for review. Will that happen? I assume that will happen, David.
I think they probably will review it, but I think that's because it's in the interests of people like Hermer and Starmer to pretend this is a one-off case, when actually this kind of leniency is baked into our sentencing guidelines.
Why is it baked in? For what purpose?
So the sentencing guidelines say very clearly that if you are young when you commit a crime, if you have a low ability to understand that what you've done is wrong, if you've got a mental health illness, if you're in some way very volatile, all of those are reasons why your sentence should be less. When in fact, all of those qualities mean you are more likely to be a danger. So we've got a system which actually says that criminals who are more dangerous should be sentenced more leniently.
What a joke. Well, yeah, that's a complete joke. But my concern for these boys who are convicted is that it wasn't just some sort of one-off case where they'd attacked or raped a girl. They'd had previous on different occasions. So there was a pattern of behaviour. And yet this judge, this joke of a judge, says that he doesn't want to convict them, punish them, what was the quote? Punish them unnecessarily, and that they'd had good behaviour. When it comes to naming youths, David, they are granted anonymity by default because they are youths. Do you not think in severe cases like this and other cases that I can probably list off the top of my head where children, maybe Jamie Bolger's killers, have been involved in serious crimes, there should be a good case for naming these people to protect the public, especially, by the way, if they're not being given custodial sentences and they're free to roam the streets of Britain?
Yeah, absolutely. I think particularly with sexual offences, we know, there's good research on this, that young boys, men who start committing sexual offences young are more likely to have what's called antisocial personality disorder, which means they will, through their lives, commit more and more serious violent and sexual offences. So these are exactly the young men we should be most concerned about. And in fact, their youth is a massive warning sign here. So of course we should know who they are. I mean, I wrote about this week. I think a civilized society would recognize that if they are old enough to rape girls at knife point, they're old enough to be sentenced as men. And a civilized society would have the death penalty for crimes like this.
Wow, yeah, well, the death penalty is an interesting topic of conversation, one maybe for another night. I've just written a piece for GB News members on our website today about the death penalty because I've been looking a lot into it here in the US, how it works, does it provide justice for the victims, does it save taxpayers money, and so on and so on. So that's online if anyone's interested. But David, thank you so much, I appreciate it. And just on that point, if you're old enough to rape girls and be of that train of thought where you are, somehow able to commit such a heinous crime. When I was 14, I was sat playing Mario Kart on the N64. I wasn't even thinking of girls. Maybe I was a late bloomer, let alone committing sexual offences. So if they're able to do that, they should certainly be named if they're going to be free to roam the streets of Britain. That's my case. David, thanks very much. David Shipley, campaigner and writer on prison reform. Let's get the thoughts of Laurie and Niall. Just a quick statement from the government. We share the public shock at the details of this horrific case, and our thoughts are with the young victims during this distressing time. The law officers are urgently reviewing the case with the utmost care and attention. Well, that's all right then. Niall, your thoughts on this? It makes me sick to my stomach, actually.
And these young savages should be sentenced to life in prison.
David was talking about the death penalty.
Yes, actually, the UK should bring back the death penalty. There should be a referendum held by the next government. I think there's some momentum for that.
For cases like this?
Yeah, I think, well, these young, juvenile, savage delinquents, they should be locked up, and then they should face the death penalty when they're older. Yeah, I do think
really?
that. Yeah. Absolutely.
I am a supporter of the death penalty in severe cases and where it's absolutely nailed on as well, and it's beyond no doubt. But I think I'd probably draw the line at, as bad as this crime is, Laurie, I'd draw the line at juveniles, 13, 14.
I don't care how young you are, you do what these boys did. I don't know if the video was ever released. I will never watch it, but these survivors, they were victimized, they were brutalized, and they will have to live with what happened to them for the rest of their lives in ways that they cannot control because of the trauma that they experienced. And they committed adult acts, and they should absolutely be tried for these heinous crimes as adults. I don't know why a judge, that was ridiculous, and that statement that you put up on that graphic that they put up with the most care and attention. How about the care and attention to the survivors?
Yeah.
Like, not the case or not these kids. How about to the survivors? Because it's a message that you're sending to everybody. And also to parents, right? Like, oh, maybe a slap on the wrist, boys will be boys. I can't tell you how I'm so over that statement, hearing that
For
statement.
children who behave like that or are even on a very basic level, antisocial, unruly.
And they were laughing. That's what everyone should be outraged by.
But do you blame the parents for that kind? Does it ultimately go back to the parents?
That would be different than, you know, if someone took a gun out of a cabinet that wasn't locked up, would the parents be responsible? Sexual acts, I'd have to look at each case individually, but as far as the parents they had influence over how those children were raised and the values that they instilled and whether that was right or wrong, or even if they didn't know to some extent of what rape was. What I mean by that is a young woman saying yes, permission, all those things. That's not what this was. They were laughing, they were brutalizing, and they were having sex with young women, against their will.
Raping them.
Right.
They weren't having sex, they were raping.
That's completely like a different issue.
Multiple occasions, by the way, not just once. It happened months before as well.
Right, so what are the parents going to do? Give them a slap on the wrist, put them in timeout, give them some groundings, take away their car, their keys?
Shouldn't think they care, actually. Let's get the thoughts of Leo back home in Blighty. Leo, pretty grubby case. I feel for those poor girls and their families. Niall's suggesting capital punishment for those lads. What's your thoughts on the death penalty?
Yeah, I mean, I think the death penalty might be appropriate in some cases. I don't think it's appropriate in this case, as horrific as it is. They are juveniles, and also with cases of this nature, it's not always. You don't want to set a precedent where we start hanging children. I think so. Yeah, that's a rather silly thing to say, but this is a very serious case, and this is a pattern of cases that we've seen where effectively the gang rape of British children has been decriminalised. If this judge is saying to these youths that did it, oh, your behaviour was exemplary in court, never mind the feelings of the girls who were brutalised for 90 minutes. I mean, this is a long, horrific experience for these girls. One of them said in court that she wanted to die. She now wants to die. These are life-changing experiences. So we're seeing, now other gangs of youths are going to see this case and say, well, this is fine now. You don't even get jail time. You'll maybe get curfew. What are they going to do? Take away your Nintendo? It's nonsense. What the government needs to worry about now is people taking the law into their own hands. This has happened in places like Ballymena, a very similar alleged case. It was Roma gypsies, not this particular case was gypsy travellers. So slightly different ethnic group, but still similar, similar social dynamics. And people were concerned about the problem families in their area. And then they were alleged to have, the youths from these families were alleged to have raped a 14-year-old girl in Ballymena. And people took to the streets, they protested, and they also burned out the homes of those families. And obviously, violence like that can never be condoned. But if people are pushed to that, if the state pushes people to that extent, if it makes that the only way to keep your children safe, then the state shouldn't be forcing people into that position. It's a disgusting thing to do, and that's where Britain is heading now. That's the sort of blueprint that people can see. You know, if you need to actually resolve issues and keep your children safe, they know the government, the state, the authorities won't do it. People are going to start taking vigilante action, and that's a dangerous place for a country to be.
Yeah, Laurie?
Leo, thank you for what you said, and I really appreciate your passion against violence against women, because it also sends a message with the government or this judicial system, as you were stating, that this seems to be a pattern that people are noticing. It sends a message to young girls and to women that your country, the judicial system, those that have authority, that they don't care and they support actually violence against women. And girls and young women, they will not come forward. No one will come forward because they see this pattern of, when I come forward, I am humiliated, nothing happens, no change happens, and instead they get off scot-free. And my life has been forever scarred, maimed, and now I'm in the public domain and everybody knows my business and my story, and it's following me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, well said, Laurie. Niall, very quickly.
Yes, just to respond to what Leo said there. So I'm advocating the death penalty for rapists in general. Once these young, savages are adult age, then they should receive the death penalty. That's what I'm arguing. I'm not advocating they receive the death penalty now, but they should be locked up. And when they're adults, then they should be.
What if they're showing signs?
They should receive the death penalty.
What if they're showing signs of rehabilitation?
You can't rehabilitate people like this. You can't, actually. You can't rehabilitate sheer evil. And I do think the UK should be the first country in Europe to bring back the death penalty as a real deterrent. It will work, actually, and it will greatly reduce the recurrence of crimes like this. It's the only way to deal with barbarians who are really steeped in evil here, and they have to be dealt with severely.
Well, sorry to plug my GB News column again, but I did write a column on the death penalty today. It's on the GB News website. Please read it. I enjoyed writing it. It's a topic that I'm quite interested in. Just before I go to the break as well, there was an incident in my hometown in Sussex some years ago. Infamous incident. A bunch of really unruly, scummy, feral kids who had committed all sorts of crimes over the years. The families were well known all across the town. They were bullying a child in a playground. The dad, they're about 13, 14. The dad came down, said, "Oi, what are you doing? Leave my son alone." They beat the dad to a pulp, dropped a log on his head, and the poor father, a guy named Alan, is now a vegetable. He is literally a vegetable in a wheelchair. He's had to have a whole house modified. They've been moved away to protect them from this vile, feral bunch of families. And I think the kids now are out there. They're probably 18, 19 now, out living their lives. Another case of just unbelievably scummy families doing unbelievably horrible things to the great British public, going, for the most part, unpunished. Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Leo, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
We will stop this. We will smash the gangs.
I will do whatever it takes to secure our borders.
Well, hey, good news. 1,000 migrants have crossed the English Channel this weekend and in the past couple of days. Lots of surgeons, do you think, architects? How many doctors do you think are in that cohort as well? I wonder. Lucky you guys. But now it's emerged that a number of them actually have been posing as children when, in fact, they were adults. I really can't believe this was happening. It's surprise, surprise, but it has been happening. I'll speak to a former immigration minister next. Back in a sec.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, GB News can reveal that the number of small boat arrivals over the bank holiday weekend to the UK is set to smash 1,000. A boatload of 70 migrants crossed the Channel on Monday, with more seen massing on the beaches of northern France. Migrants have seemingly taken advantage of the record-breaking May heat to aid their Channel crossings. Calm sea states as well make the conditions all but perfect. The first boat from yesterday left for Britain from near Calais between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. It then sailed past the French Navy to the halfway point in the Channel, where it was intercepted by the British Border Force vessel BSC Courageous. And tonight, The Sun is reporting half of unaccompanied child migrants tested by a frontline authority were found to be adults. Let me just read that again. The Sun is reporting that half of unaccompanied child migrants tested by a frontline authority were found to be adults. So these are the men who are sometimes going into classrooms across Britain, sitting down next to your 12, 13, 14-year-old child, your daughter. Abdul there is saying he's 14. Actually, he's 44. So that's good. With me now is former Immigration Minister Tom Pursglove. Tom, I don't know what to say really, Tom. I'm just exhausted at our country being made a mockery of.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, isn't it? And this government's flagship legislation should actually have been called the Border Insecurity Bill, because on things like scientific age assessments that I legislated for through the Nationality and Borders Act to try and help us to safeguard particularly children in our own classrooms, for example, they have repealed that. They've taken that away. So where we were legislating to make sure that proper scientific tests were undertaken to identify where there were those abuses, where you'd got adults that were pretending to be children to try and game the asylum system, we would have been able to root that out much more readily. Instead, what they're doing is relying upon social worker assessments, and that goes completely against what many other European Union countries do, where they do deploy those age assessments on a scientific basis. And it just throws open a whole host of other risks that we are confronted with as a society, and I think it's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah, so 10 of the 19 tested at Kent County Council were due to be placed in foster care or children's homes. So 10 of the 19 were confirmed to be adults. That's according to Freedom of Information requests. What would have happened, do you think, Tom, if the 10 of those 19 adults were placed into children's homes or foster care? What is the danger?
It's unthinkable, isn't it? And you would just never want adults to be in settings with children. And that's precisely what drove the law changes that I put on the statute books when Priti Patel was Home Secretary, and ministers like Kevin Foster were also a key part in making that happen. They've repealed it. And it really speaks to the whole direction of travel that we've seen. This Home Secretary, in my view, gets a very easy ride. Lots of rhetoric, all sounds very good, but the practical realities of what they're doing is completely at odds with what the British people want. I mean, again, under us, we had banned anybody arriving via small boat from having asylum. Again, through the same piece of legislation that's changed scientific age assessments and repealed all of that, they've repealed the ban on those people having asylum. So what we're not now getting is the whole system change that is so patently, absurdly needed, which would mean that if you come here via small boat, you are never able to get any further than a detention centre. You are detained and you're relocated to a third country or back to your country of origin. That is so clearly what needs to happen. And I was thinking a bit earlier today, actually, how you can summarise this government's performance on borders and immigration. Kind of falls into three tranches, really. The things that we did that are delivering results that they take credit for, the things that we put in place that they repealed and that they're now trying to reinstitute. So things like large military sites, which was obviously the right way of tackling accommodation. So, you know, you've got a much more low-cost ability to be able to detain people and to then facilitate removals in the way that we'd envisaged. Well, you know, the third tranche is where they're just completely at odds with reality, completely deluded, despite all of the evidence that shows that you need to have a credible out-and-out deterrent in order to stop this. And all the while you don't do that, you're going to have a complete abuse of our asylum system, and you actually have all these safeguarding risks that you're right to highlight.
Yeah, but Tom, I will say your lot let in a lot of the intake since 2018, and also legal migration as well. I mean, Boris Johnson let in 1.2 million, the majority third worlders, legally into the UK. So I will say I respect you coming on the show and I enjoy your company, but I will say it's pretty rich of you also, just trying to pin it on Labour.
On legal migration, I was the immigration minister that delivered much of the cut in numbers that this government is taking credit for. Obviously, Rob Jenrick and Suella had also introduced changes before James Cleverly and I. They were the right things to do. Because of the levers that Brexit gave us, we were able to pull them. And I think that is precisely
what about the 1.2 million you let in?
Well, you know, I personally would not have had the situation with dependents, for example. I would have been tighter when it came to...
Weren't you an immigration minister?
Visas. I was the illegal migration minister previously when we announced Rwanda and when we delivered a lot of these legal changes that are required and so obviously required today. I then had a very short period where I had all of the immigration responsibilities under Liz Truss, and I then came back to the immigration brief at the end of the government, where I was able to cut the numbers in the way that I'd wanted to.
OK, I'll let you off the legal migration then. But it is, I mean, as much as we bang on about, and quite rightly, the illegal migration, because from a security perspective, for me, the Boris wave, the 1.2 million, was one of the biggest betrayals of this country. You got rid of a load of hard-working Eastern Europeans like the Poles after Brexit, and then what you did in return was get a bunch of third worlders in and then eventually invite their families over. It's going to cost the country billions. Tens of billions and billions. Once they bring their families over, they get leave to remain. It's a complete catastrophe. I will never forgive Boris Johnson for that. He was one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had. Tom, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And we'll catch up soon on The Late Show Live. Tom Perskov, former immigration minister. Quick word from you, Leo Kearse. Are you there, sitting patiently? What's your take on... who would have thought, Leo? Adults, Mohammed and Abdul posing as children.
Yeah, and the scary thing is, we actually know there are tests that can be done to everybody coming over the border to see if they're genuinely a child or not. Obviously, a lot of people claim to be children because then you're much more likely to have an asylum claim accepted. We can test the teeth. It's not invasive. It's easy to do. It's like, you know, looking at the rings in a tree. You can definitely see if somebody's an adult or if somebody's a child. But it's been scrapped. I don't know if it was scrapped by the previous government or by Labour, but Labour certainly haven't brought it back. And it's terrifying to think that, you know, these guys, you know, a 35-year-old guy could be sitting in a classroom with 14-year-old girls. In fact, girls have posted pictures that they've taken in classrooms being like, why is this 35-year-old guy with a beard in my class? And I think that's why Labour are now taking the phones. Labour are now taking the phones of children in schools just purely to hide the evidence of the horrors that they're foisting on these girls.
Oh, Leo, I'd never thought about that. Actually, I was on the side of maybe taking phones off kids from schools because I never had phones. I'm sure you didn't at school. They're quite unnecessary, but I'd never thought of the concepts that they are taking away the means of obtaining evidence for stuff like that. It's an interesting point. I would say as well, send me down to Dover. I could tell you from the look of somebody whether they're an adult or a child. But then again, if I put on a shirt and a tie and had a backpack and my top button done up, I'd probably look about 14 as well. So,
what are you, Marco Rubio, lining up the job titles over here, Ben?
Say again, sorry.
I said, what are you, Marco Rubio, lining up the job titles over here?
Yeah.
Now you're inspector.
Moonlighting in the UK. Migrant. I'll be migrant watch at Dover. I enjoyed going out with ice in Florida. Right, let's go to a break. Coming up next on The Late Show Live, one very quick statement from the Home Office. A spokesperson said the government's bearing down on small boat crossings. We've stopped over 40k crossing attempts since the government came into office. The Home Secretary has announced the most sweeping reforms to tackle illegal migration in the modern times, removing the incentives, they said. They've removed the incentives that bring illegal migrants to the UK and scaling up the return of those with no right to be here. OK, still ahead on The Late Show Live. Let's look north of the border, in the UK, that is. A scandal's erupted in Scotland with Nicola Sturgeon's estranged husband admitting to embezzlement. The Daily Record in Scotland splashes with, I know nothing. She knew nothing. She was married for 15 years to him and knew nothing. Right, back in a sec on The Late Show Live.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon's... Sorry, the former First Minister. Thank goodness she's still not the First Minister of Scotland. The former First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon's estranged husband, Peter Murrell, has pleaded guilty to embezzling more than £400,000 from the Scottish National Party coffers. Sturgeon has, of course, denied any knowledge or suspicion that personal items have been purchased using SNP funds, including a big camper van worth £124,000. She knew nothing about it. There it is on your screen. Headlines initially ran in 2023 when he was first arrested. Here are some of the other most astonishing expenses Mr Murrell purchased using the funds. He spent £5,700 on coffee machines, including gourmet Portuguese coffee beans. I need a coffee machine. £170 wok, how do you say that? Le Creuset wok, and crucially with a lid. Creuset, okay, I'm sure it's a good one. 110 quid on a pencil sharpener. £110 on a pencil sharpener.
It is good, those pens are very expensive.
Terrible waste of money. The front page of The National reads, with regards to this story, a terrible breach of trust. Yeah, bit of an understatement. I mean, 400 grand of donation to the SNP, and he goes and spends it on a camper van, which Nicola Sturgeon knew nothing about. She knew nothing about the coffee machine, and she knew nothing of the pencil sharpener. The Daily Record, this is it, on Sturgeon. I knew nothing. As estranged hubby admits stealing 400k, Sturgeon does her best Manuel from 40 Towers impression. I know nothing. She was married for 14 years to Murrell, but she knew nothing. Okay? Sturgeon has issued the following statement via her lawyers. I've seen questions raised about how I could not have known about this. I want to reiterate, I had no knowledge or suspicion whatsoever that personal items had been purchased using SNP funds. I was cleared of wrongdoing after a lengthy and thorough investigation in relation to many of the items in question. For example, expensive watches and games consoles. I wasn't aware of them having been purchased at all. Leo Kearse, your reaction please as the Scot here on The Late Show Live.
Yeah, I mean, part of me thinks that this is great because that money was raised for Scottish independence. That was people chipping in little bits and pieces, whatever they could afford, because they believed in Scottish independence. And Scottish independence is a terrible idea. And I'd much rather that money spent by Scotland's Imelda Marcos on his £110 pencil sharpeners and £6,000 coffee machines. And yeah, I'm sure I completely believe Nicola Sturgeon when she says she was completely unaware of the Jaguar that turned up in the garage. I mean, yeah, how would you notice something like that? An expensive sports car in the garage. Yeah, I'm sure the Ceausescus were completely... Mrs Ceausescu had no idea where the gold taps came from. I think this whole thing stinks. Scotland is a very corrupt country. I think a lot of people in England don't realise this, but because it's such a small country, because so much money flows in, so much of the economy is controlled by the state, through public contracts, and because it's such a sort of insular and incestuous country, and there's not the sort of oversight that you get in a larger country like England. There's so much corruption in the UK, and I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, and also the complete cack-handedness of the SNP. I mean, Sturgeon, I can sort of believe that she didn't notice, all this expensive stuff turning up in the house, because she's done ridiculous things. Like she had a launch party for a ferry that wasn't finished. It had windows painted on. She's smashing a bottle of champagne off the side of this thing, and it's got painted on windows. She thought nobody was going to notice. So yeah, maybe she is. Maybe she is just incredibly daft.
Just incompetent, yeah, maybe just totally incompetent. She didn't know her husband had been spending 400 grand of her own party's coffers on big camper vans. Niall, your reaction to this?
Well, the SNP really comes across as a sort of third world corrupt political party, doesn't it? And I think that this is probably just scratching the surface, frankly, and there should be a far bigger investigation into the party's operations. And this says it all, isn't it, about the Scottish nationalists' campaign. No wonder they want to be back in the European Union, which is also riddled with corruption and mismanagement. And so this shouldn't come as a surprise, frankly, with regard to the SNP. And yes, Nicola Sturgeon should be questioned further about exactly what she.
Well, she was cleared.
But what she was cleared, but I think that there are further questions to be answered by her.
All right, Laurie, very quickly, 30 seconds. Any similar incidents like this in the US?
Well, I was going to say this is like a storyline of many books, like beach read books, or even I think there was a case in which this happened, but they couldn't find, and the woman in that case, she didn't know where any of this stuff was, and that was the truth, because all the things that her husband was buying was being given to the mistress or being stored at the mistress's home, so she didn't know about
to the girlfriend.
things. So that's also a possibility, Ben.
Okay, let's be honest, this probably goes on all the time in United Kingdom, US politics. Politics is completely corrupt, it's filth, it's a swamp, it's the gutter. Anyway, more coming up in the next hour, including this.
Justice for George Floyd!
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's going to be another very hot day for parts of England and Wales today. Most of the country seeing plenty of sunshine, and that heat may give way to a few thunderstorms later this afternoon. So out there, first thing this morning, we do have some cloud across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe 1 or 2 sprinkles of rain here. But for England and Wales, a sunny morning, and that's going to give way to another very warm, if not hot, afternoon to come, especially across the far south of the country. Could see highs again reaching 34 or 35 degrees. So very exceptional spell of heat for the time of year. A little bit fresher further north, so a bit more comfortable here with temperatures reaching the low 20s. Into this evening, as I mentioned, we could potentially just see a few thunderstorms break out, but I think most of us remaining dry across the south with some plenty of late evening sunshine, and a fairly quiet evening to come across Northern Ireland and Scotland too, although we could continue to see some cloud across eastern Scotland, and that may again just give the odd spit and spot of rain. Overnight, very little changes. The cloud across eastern Scotland will spread its way a little bit further south to encompass parts of northern England. But for most of us, it's a fairly quiet night. Under the clear skies, we may just see the odd fog patch form, but especially across the south, another very warm night to come. Quite uncomfortable to sleep for some of us, but a little bit fresher further north, so certainly a bit more comfortable to sleep across Scotland. Into Wednesday, we will see a change in the east on Wednesday, picking up a bit more of a breeze here, so temperatures certainly much lower here compared to recent days, and that may again trigger the odd shower. The cloud across eastern parts of Scotland and northern England will gradually work its way back towards the coastline as the day goes on, with the best of the sunshine out towards the western half of the UK. And it's here where we see the highest of the temperatures. Again, we could see low 30s across the southwest, but certainly a little bit fresher down towards the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning, hope you're well. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
If an eminent person steps forward into operational policing with inaccuracies and challenges things in a way that can undermine that trust, I need to speak up for those officers.
Well, that man there, the Met Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, has seen his officers criticised in recent weeks in some parts of social media. In response, he's promised a new era of openness as he vows to release body camera footage to show what he calls the good and the bad in policing.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. This moment needs words capable of attracting attention and indicating paths forward.
My namesake, Pope Leo, has issued a cautionary warning about the rise of artificial intelligence and how the technological innovation is changing the nature of war. Also, some stark warnings today from Anthropic, who were in the Vatican meeting the Pope today, basically saying the entire human labour workforce will be replaced by AI. Are these words we should heed from the Pope, or is it an attack on innovation?
Justice for George Floyd!
Yes, construction on George Floyd Square is set to begin in 2 weeks as Minneapolis revamps the memorial site 6 years after his murder. That was 6 years today. What's changed since then? I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. Remember, no breaks this hour. Good morning. Hope you've had a really good hot day in the sun on Bank Holiday Monday back in Britain. DC's been pretty grey and rainy. Actually, I quite like it after it was equally as hot earlier this week. In Washington this evening, in rainy Washington, Laurie Watkins and Niall Gardner. And back home in Blighty, one man who's probably used to the drizzly rain and grey skies. About to say gay skies then, real gay skies as well. Grey skies of Scotland, Leo Kerr. Do you prefer gay skies or grey skies, Leo?
We do occasionally get a few rainbows, so yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that's a gay sky.
There you go.
I'll take a rainbow.
Yeah, you'll take that. Good stuff. Thanks, Leo. Hang tight. We'll catch up in just a bit. Let's move on to our main news this evening. The Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, is ushering in, easy for me to say, a new era of openness by vowing to release body camera footage worn by coppers to show what he calls the good and the bad of policing. Sir Mark Rowley has scrapped a previous policy that footage shouldn't be routinely released, as he wants the force to hit back at so-called armchair critics, as he calls them, as footage of police operations often goes viral and is scrutinised on social media. This, of course, comes after Green Party leader Zach Polanski was compelled to apologise after criticising police, whilst officers detained a suspect in the recent knife attack in Golders Green. So, big question for you, listeners and viewers. Will this bold new era of policing provide a new era of transparency and aid the police in controlling the narrative during complex operations? Well, with me now is former police officer and founder of PTSD 999, a charity dedicated to supporting emergency service personnel affected by trauma, Gary Hayes. Gary, good morning. Thanks for your company on The Late Show Live. Good idea, bad idea from Sir Mark Rowley. Gary, your take?
I think it's a great idea. Officers need to be protected in all areas,
And as you've mentioned, these armchair critics, these armchair generals, have no idea what it's like to be attacked with knives by groups of people with the simple aim of trying to hurt or kill you. Unless you've been in that situation, which sadly I have on a number of occasions whilst I was a serving officer, you'll never know the fear that goes through you as an individual. It's all right being a police officer and you follow your training regimes and the use of force protocols and everything else. Cameras never lie. They do when social media put it out there and they want you to see what they want you to see. When you're looking directly from the officer's point of view, during that moment of absolute terror, let's be clear, it's a great bit of evidence and it can't be disputed. The use of force is there for a reason, to protect the public.
Sorry, there's a bit of a delay on the line. In the case of the Golders Green attack, I mean, you didn't need body camera footage to see what was going on there. You got a guy who was just stabbed 2 Jews in the neck and who was still on the loose, and you've got 2 unarmed, for the most part, apart from a taser. I mean, pretty useless most of the time. The 2 unarmed cops who are trying to subdue the guy, still clutching the knife. You don't need body camera footage, and it's the sake of Zach Polanski, complete moron, to try and explain what's happened there. Those are the words in the assessment of a man who's never had a physical confrontation in his life, probably never got his heart rate above 160 before. What Zach Polanski did and said was a complete joke. But in terms of the body camera footage itself, I think it happens a lot here in the US. You get police shootings, you get incidents where people are coming at cops with knives and so on. They release the body camera footage, sometimes pretty promptly, and for the most part, it does quell those armchair critics who are saying, well, why didn't you shoot him in the knee? Couldn't you just shoot him in the foot and try and subdue him, the guy running towards you with a knife? So for the most part, it does work. Do you think Sir Mark Rowley introduced this off the back of Polanski's intervention? Is this a new thing?
I would hope that he's put a lot of thought into this, because it's about time a senior officer started to look out for his officers, those on the ground putting their lives at risk every day, along with their own mental health. You know, those officers, when they were going towards that individual with a knife, they were completely unawares of what else he could have had with him. And there was talk about a body-worn IED. Idiots like Polanski, when they just jump on the bandwagon to get votes, it's shocking. And I believe Polanski should be dealt with in some way or form, because that man just creates more and more issues. Our officers are under enough pressure as it is, going about their daily business. You know, cameras don't lie. Zach Polanski used that as a nice little gift to try and further his stupid political career, in my book, and it's absolutely turned around and kicked him in the arse, for want of a better word. You know, senior officers need to look at their officers on the ground and take care of them.
I guess he did apologise, so we can give him that. Gary, you run a charity for emergency service personnel affected by trauma, PTSD 999. Just tell us, in the case, for example, in the Golders Green incident, where those officers are tackling an attempted murderer and he's just stabbed somebody, what does that do to a frontline officer, or maybe even a paramedic or an ambulance worker who's treating somebody who's got some horrific injuries? What does that do? How does that affect them for their careers and the rest of their life?
So initially they'll be taken away, they'll have a small debrief. But you've got to remember, that trauma is specific to them. Although those 2 officers were dealing with the same incident, both would have seen and done things completely different to each other, and they will take that away with them, and it will affect them, not necessarily on the day or the day after. It could be weeks, months, if not years later. In some cases, some officers had the fear of God put into them. They wish no longer to go out and be frontline because they've experienced a near-death moment in their own lives, and it can, impact on them. Equally, they'll take that home with them as well. They could then, go through many issues: isolation, feelings of guilt. Did I do the appropriate thing? Were my actions, within the use of force remit? Was I being the best I could be on the day? They'll always question themselves, and people will sit there within the job and question them as well, which is wrong. They weren't there. Those 2 brave officers did exactly the right thing. And we need to make sure that they're getting appropriate help and guidance as we move forward, away from this incident. You've only got to look at the incident at Manchester and those poor officers that dealt with that. and the stupid outcome at this current moment with that moment.
The Ariana Grande bombing.
The guys at the airport.
Oh, sorry.
With the police officers.
Yeah, well, they've just got off again. Unbelievable.
There you go.
Your interesting comment you made, Gary, about people handling trauma differently. Your charity doing great work. I've mentioned a few times to viewers and listeners, they may know I was in the 2017 London Bridge terror attack and I was with a girl who had her throat cut. Lots of people, including my mum, was like, look, you're going to have to speak to someone about this. I cried at the time afterwards, once the adrenaline had worn off. You know, it was a shock. But everybody was saying, you're going to have to speak to somebody, you're going to have some trauma and so on. For the most part, for some reason, it didn't really affect me. It was a sad day, but I'm not disturbed by it. I don't have nightmares by it. I certainly don't have PTSD. So other people, though, from London Bridge on that occasion have been deeply affected by it. So it's interesting how that works, how it affects different people, Gary.
Absolutely, Ben. Also, we need to look at the vicarious post-traumatic stress. It's a bit of a grey area for a lot of people. People that were viewing that incident that day on the TV, on monitors at police stations, they could be just as badly affected by what they've seen. They didn't have to be there at the incident to start possibly building up to areas and problems around post-traumatic stress. Right, we need to look at everything. We need to make sure those officers are catered for and are given the appropriate help and guidance, because often it's just accepted that that was just a normal day at the office. And through your own experience, that was not a normal walk across the bridge.
Yeah. Gary, well said. Thank you so much. Good luck with the charity, PTSD 999. And thank you for coming on the Late Show Live. Appreciate you staying up. Jackie has said on your say, I am not an armchair critic. I policed London in the 80s and 90s and can tell you now, the police today have nowhere near the mettle we had in our days. We just effing get on with it. Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate that. And Arthur said, police cameras don't lie, but SM cameras do. SM cameras, what's that? Social media? Oh, social media cameras? Yeah, Insta brag, complete lie. Niall, what do you make of this policy from Mark Rowley?
Well, I think it's a very good initiative, actually. I think it's one of the best, most positive ideas to come from Mark Rowley, who has come under a lot of fire, of course, over allegations of two-tier policing with regard to the Met's handling of protests. And so this is a welcome move by the Metropolitan Police.
I think he's been great with Polanski, actually.
Yeah, and I think he's actually been very good standing up to Zach Polanski, who has been an absolute clown on these issues. I mean, Polanski really is not a serious politician, and his condemnation of policing taking down terrorist suspects and so on. It's an absolute disgrace. I'm Polanski. Whose side is he on? Actually, I have to say, and so I do think this is a very good move, and this will weaken the lies and disinformation coming from figures like Polanski and from the Green Party, and I think it's going to improve protections, of course, for police officers who put their lives on the line every single day in London, incredibly dangerous circumstances. And at the same time, I do hope that Mark Rowley and the Metropolitan Police will do a lot more, of course, to combat anti-Semitism in London, and take on the pro-Palestinian protesters. So we need to see a lot firmer action on that front. But this is a very good move by the head of the Metropolitan Police, and I think he should be applauded for this.
Laurie, before I come to you, I'm going to read a comment from one of our viewers, Sarah Smith, on your say, because you won't know what it means, basically. Leo, Sarah has said on your say, what use is camera evidence when the jury has people who won't find people of the same religion guilty because of their religion, referencing Manchester? What's the point of body cam footage when a jury will just let people off anyway?
Is that to me?
No, to Leo in London. Are you there, Leo?
Yep, that's a great point. We've seen in some cases we've got traditions in Britain where we treat everybody equally and fairly. But if you bring people into Britain who don't treat people equally and fairly, who have their own in-group preference and don't see crimes that are committed against people outside their group, this is what we saw with the grooming gangs. A lot of people in those communities don't see those things as crimes because they've got this Berrideri clan culture where people outside the clan have no honour, have no worth as a human, so you can do what you like to them, and it doesn't matter. I mean, some people would say that the idea of bringing these medieval antediluvian attitudes into Britain and assuming that you can legislate them away is interesting. When we talk about, you know, clamping down on anti-Semitism, clamping down on extremism, I mean, you can't, there's no law you can pass that will make these people change the way they think, or their children, or their children's children. It's a problem we're either going to have to live with or deport those people. Yeah, I mean, I think the advantage of having...
Great, Leo?
Well, the advantage of having...
We've got a great multicultural society with lots of flavours from around the world and traditions and diversity. What's your problem?
This idea that, you know, all these cultures, it's just, oh, they just wear a different hat, or it's a different flavour of food. It's like, no, different cultures have very, very different ways of thinking and of structuring their societies. I think the advantage of having body camera, the police body cam footage is going to exonerate the police in a lot of cases. After St. George Floyd was sadly taken from us in the most horrific fentanyl overdose of all time, after he died, people in America campaigned to have police wear body cams, and they assumed it was going to reveal all the horrific racist brutality that the police officers were committing on a daily basis. And in fact, it just exonerated the cops. It showed the relentless mayhem that police have to deal with, and the fact that, you know, a lot of these people are just like low impulse, violent rogues, and the police are actually doing an incredibly good job in very difficult circumstances, and it totally backfired on the campaigners.
Yeah, and Laurie, I will say, how does it work here in the US? Is the body cam released after just controversial incidents, say for example where somebody shot someone and everybody's saying, "Oh my God, why did the police shoot them?" Or is it released on every crime? Can I access body cameras from just an FOI request, for example? How does it work?
That's a tricky situation because it's usually based on the state and the jurisdiction and the law, and like whether or not they say before a trial or if they're still investigating and collecting evidence, and they wouldn't release that, and there could be time delays on it, of course. But with all that being said, I am 100% in support. When it comes to public safety, we need to have full transparency, and this protects the public, and it also protects law enforcement officers and those working in law enforcement, working to protect the public. So I think that it should be mandatory, and every city and town should either, if they can't afford it and they don't have it in their budget, that they need to work with the federal government to try to get this, because I think it's just as important as having surveillance cameras around to be able to put pieces of things together later if and when you need to do that.
Yeah, and also on a very superficial level, call me shallow, I am. I also just enjoy the drama of seeing all these police clips coming out of interactions and, you know, sort of TV style standoffs and shootings. It is, you know, it is quite fun. Sorry.
Well, and then it gives an entertainment value for Ben and others who watch shows like Cops. And,
Cops, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Arthur has said, all I'll say on camera is John Charles de Silva de Menez footage not found on body cams and the Tube CCTV killed with headshots. That was, of course, was that 7/7 or was that before? That was 7/7. After the 7/7 bombings, Jean Charles, when he leaped over the... Well, I don't think he even did. That was the police tale, wasn't it, Leo? That he leaped over the barriers. And that's why they chased him down and shot him. But I think he didn't leap the barriers. I think that was a complete lie. He just walked down with a ticket. Is that right?
I'm not sure of the exact details of that case. I know the people alleged that he leapt the barriers and there were wires trailing. I think it was just his headphones. But I mean, it was established there was a sort of failures in the intelligence chain. But then when you're dealing with you know, fast-moving situations like that in a very tense environment, you can imagine, you know, right after we've had massive terror attacks, mistakes are going to happen.
Yeah, I think their comms also cut out as they got down into the tube station. Anyway, different conversation, I guess. Leo, thanks very much. Hang tight. Let's move on to our next topic. The Pope Leo, has issued a cautionary warning about the rise of artificial intelligence and how the technological innovation is changing the nature of war. So the American pontiff published an 83-page pastoral document that was heavily focused on the perceived challenges posed by the AI revolution.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. The word is strong, I know, but deliberately chosen because this moment needs words capable of attracting attention, awakening consciences, and indicating paths forward for humanity.
Included in the document was an unusual source as the Pope invokes Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. He said, it is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the suck of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. What's he on about? Said the Pope, quoting the bearded wizard. So are the Pope's words a warning that we should heed, or is it a Luddite attack on innovation? And is AI really a spiritual matter? That's the big question. Is AI really a spiritual matter that Pope Leo should be concerning himself with? Actually, that's the most interesting question of all. With me to discuss that is Assistant Professor of Bible and Writing, Montreat College, Dr. Michael Halcombe, and AI expert, Dr. Shlomit Wagman, who has also advised US and Israeli governments on AI. Hello, you two. Thank you for your company. Thank you for being patient whilst I got through that. Let's start with you, Dr. Michael. It's a great question. Sure. Is AI a spiritual matter? Again, sorry to appear juvenile, but the one sort of image that comes to my mind is the Matrix, where human beings are replaced by machines and we are just farmed for whatever minerals or resources we can offer these machines. Some people suggest that is a serious scenario to consider for the future.
Right. Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, by the way. While I look at this through a Protestant lens, I think actually Pope Leo has done us all a tremendous service today, and I'm glad we're discussing this, because when we look at the rapid rise of AI, I think we need a framework that goes beyond just efficiency or profit. I think it's definitely a spiritual matter. And as a Protestant theologian and Bible scholar, in my institution, we're talking about a framework called DELTA, which is an acronym for Dignity, Embodiment, Love, Transcendence, and Agency. And I believe that actually has its origins at Notre Dame. And so I think the Pope's message touches on each of those perfectly.
Is there any link between religion, faith, and AI? Is there anything at all that we can they share in common?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the question of, is AI going to be sentient, for example, or you look at discussions, the Pope touched on this, around transhumanism. I think this is maybe the oldest temptation. If you go back to Genesis in the Bible, right? Wanting to be God, wanting to be a God, wanting to be like God. But transhumanism has its limitations, and Christian transcendence says that we are finite and we have weaknesses. And so I think there's actually a lot of overlap between AI and spirituality, and it touches on a lot of really important theological issues.
I think so as well, Dr. Wagman. I like Elon Musk for the most part. I think he's a genius. But of course, he does have Neuralink, which critics would say, of course, you're placing chips in the brain and so on. And the mark of the beast, of course, is a mark placed on the right hand or in the forehead. People must receive to participate in society. Some so-called conspiracy theorists would talk about social credit scores and so on. Is that a conversation you hear a lot, Dr. Wagman? That kind of route.
Yes, but perhaps just to answer, to the previous question that you just asked, I actually read this document differently. I actually think that this is a beautiful policy paper document that could have been written by a think tank, an international organization, or lawmaker than a traditional religious text. And I think what's interesting here is that the Pope is kind of like alarming about societal phenomena that we see. And he speaks about, the concerns around this new technology, but also at the same time, I think that because of his role, there is also a very rare opportunity to start a discussion about AI safety and about the values that lays behind that and the global consensus that may be created now when someone at his scale, with the reputation that he brings and the moral authority brings over, to actually start discussing seriously what we, the AI companies, governments, can do in order to improve and making sure that AI AI is being developed safely and that humanity develops AI and not AI is being developed without thinking about all the adversarial consequences that may happen.
What does, if you go on to say Claude or Grok or ChatGPT, what is their stance on religion? Do they have an opinion, those language models on religion and faith?
Well, you know, I'm not expert on faith, so I'm not sure what they think about that. But I do think that, you know, what would be interesting to see if, you know, if you will review the certain declarations that those AI companies made in the last year, you will be able to see that there is some overlap with the Pope declaration. It's not as far as seems to be. For example, you mentioned mass surveillance earlier. They also mention OpenAI and Topic and so forth, that this is something that this is an unintended consequences that we would not like to see. Implications on labor law, on children being exposed to inappropriate materials and so forth. So we see that there is a core of understanding that all stakeholders are believing the same values. However, what does happen is that they are commercial companies. So at the end of the day, I think that they are kind of looking for an external source to come and say, hey, the entire industry should follow the same norms, the same standards that should protect society. Yeah. And they need this cultural or spiritual or governmental source. And now having this declaration of the Pope actually brings on board the discussion. And, you know, we are able to start discussing that and whether we should be following those norms and how to do that. And whether government should.
Interesting. Dr. Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Dr. Michael, last question to you. Are we at risk here of turning to technology for knowledge instead of looking inwards for our own divinity and our own intuition, and instead going to the likes of, you know, machines and computers?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always been at risk, you know, of that at some level. I want to go back for a second and just touch on the 666, by the way. As a Bible scholar, I can't let us get away from that without mentioning that that's actually talking about Nero, the Emperor Nero. It isn't some modern conspiracy theory. But yeah, I think when it comes to technology, I mean, the biblical prophets, when they were writing and dealing with technologies of weapons at their time, for example, were talking about beating swords into plowshares because what was happening is that the weapons were creating rivalries and, you know, humans began using them wrongly toward one another. And so the scriptures addressing principles, even though it's ancient, it's addressing principles that still carry forward to modern issues like this.
Yeah. Fascinating. Really interesting conversation. Thank you both for contributing. Really appreciate it. Dr. Michael Halcombe and AI expert Dr. Shalomit Wagman. Thank you both. gbnews.com/your say. John in Falmouth. Hello, John. Good morning. You've said, hello, in my honest opinion, when God was created, I'm sure she spent unknown millennia playing and exploring until she got bored and lonely. She then set about recreating the universe which created her, him, and put it on steroids. Thanks, John. Thank you. Appreciate it. And somebody else said, Ian, do we really need to make some make-believe deity in the Pope to tell us what we already know? For Pete's sake, man, it's 2026, not the Middle Ages. No, any opinion on AI and religion?
Well, I think, firstly, the Pope's intervention, it's a timely one. And yes, it's the role of the Pope, I think, to intervene on these issues. Actually, I was in Rome just a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get an audience with the Pope, but I did go to the Vatican, and I think that you know, this is a very thoughtful Pope. Actually, I don't agree with him on everything he said. For example, about the Iran war. I mean, I do believe the Iran war is a just war the United States is fighting, but I do think he's a deeply thoughtful leader, and he's somebody whose views should be listened to and respected. And I do think that it's the right role for the Pope to be commenting on issues like this, actually. And I think that the Pope's intervention will certainly spark a lot of significant and welcome debate on this issue.
Okay.
And I welcome the Pope's intervention on this, although I disagree with the Pope on what he said recently about Iran.
Laurie, any thoughts before we move on?
No, just that here in the United States, I'm supportive of many different males, especially in the younger category here in the United States, are going back to Christianity, specifically to the Catholic Church. I spoke to a priest for a piece that I was working on leading up to graduation. This is around Easter time, and the number of people at the college in North Carolina, for example, he was the head of divinity, the divinity school there, was, I think it was 28 people were getting confirmed, which was an increase from 10 the previous year, and the majority of those were men. I'm just fascinated by all of this, but if it brings good values and morals and treating women and their partners right, then I'm all for it, Ben.
What about men treating men right?
Aren't you? I said that because I know you like heterosexual relationships, so I didn't want to.
Oh, right. How do you know?
Come on, you come on here blasting all the groups.
You're assuming my gender, Laurie?
No, it's nothing about you. It's about your beliefs and your views.
Yeah. All right. I just think we should find God, find faith, and get closer to nature. Shun social media, screens, and AI, and we'll probably all be a lot happier for it. Right. Still ahead tonight on the Late Show Live.
Justice for George Floyd!
Construction on George Floyd Square is set to begin in 2 weeks as Minneapolis ramps up for the memorial site 6 years after his murder. Will you be going there? Will you be getting a plane to Minnesota, going to George Floyd Square, paying tribute, leaving some flowers, shedding a few tears? We'll be discussing that in a second. First, though, here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's going to be another very hot day for parts of England and Wales today. Most of the country seeing plenty of sunshine, and that heat may give way to a few thunderstorms later this afternoon. So out there, first thing this morning, we do have some cloud across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe 1 or 2 sprinkles of rain here. But for England and Wales, a sunny morning, and that's going to give way to another very warm, if not hot, afternoon to come, especially across the far south of the country. Could see highs again reaching 34 or 35 degrees. So very exceptional spell of heat for the time of year. A little bit fresher further north, so a bit more comfortable here with temperatures reaching the low 20s. Into this evening, as I mentioned, we could potentially just see a few thunderstorms break out, but I think most of us remaining dry across the south with some plenty of late evening sunshine, and a fairly quiet evening to come across Northern Ireland and Scotland too, although we could continue to see some cloud across eastern Scotland, and that may again just give the odd spit and spot of rain. Overnight, very little changes. The cloud across eastern Scotland will spread its way a little bit further south to encompass parts of northern England. But for most of us, it's a fairly quiet night. Under the clear skies, we may just see the odd fog patch form, but especially across the south, another very warm night to come. Quite uncomfortable to sleep for some of us, but a little bit fresher further north, so certainly a bit more comfortable to sleep across Scotland. Into Wednesday, we will see a change in the east on Wednesday, picking up a bit more of a breeze here, so temperatures certainly much lower here compared to recent days, and that may again trigger the odd shower. The cloud across eastern parts of Scotland and northern England will gradually work its way back towards the coastline as the day goes on, with the best of the sunshine out towards the western half of the UK. And it's here where we see the highest of the temperatures. Again, we could see low 30s across the southwest, but certainly a little bit fresher down towards the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Right, let's get a look at the front pages hitting the shelves tomorrow, starting with The Independent. It says drug deaths in jails have soared. That's according to brand new figures. The Chief Inspector of Prisons demands ministers get a grip on the crisis as tactics for smuggling lethal substances into jails have escalated to drones that are able to deliver up to 11 kilos of a drug at a time. The Daily Express, migrants will get half of all new homes. Well, that sounds good. Were Labour planning that when they pledged to build however how many homes they were going to build? This story, the Tories say that generation of UK families risk being locked out of property ownership. Migrant demand for housing has cancelled almost half the new homes built since Labour came to power. Damning new figures show. I'm sure it's all by design as well. The Metro, bank hottest day May. What does that mean? Bank hottest day May. Am I missing something there? What is that, Niall? Bank hottest.
Is that a city or a town?
The hottest bank holiday day ever or something? Is that what they're saying?
Or you can bank on the hottest day being Monday.
Bank hottest.
We're not copywriters, and that means that the paper has an issue
All I
with
say is it was
copyright.
the coldest, I think, Memorial weekend in decades.
I liked it.
In the United States.
I don't know what this means though. What a stupid headline. I used to work in newspapers for 7 years.
Terrible
Bank
headline.
hottest day.
Worst headline of the year, I think.
If a reader has to sit there and question for more than 2 seconds what the headline means, don't go with it. Just say, what a scorcher or something.
Absolutely awful.
El Scorchio. iPaper. Andrew received expenses boost as trade envoy after review he ordered. Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew. The Times. Social media is the new smoking, according to medics. I can probably believe that. Addictive as hell. The Daily Star, England kit hits the fan. This is a story about the fake shirts that are making their way onto the market. Well, do you know what? If you weren't charging 100 plus quid for these shirts, or whatever the cost is, people wouldn't feel obliged to A, make fake shirts, and B, go and buy them. You greedy so-and-sos. The Daily Mail, ask how could Sturgeon not know about her husband's 400 grand embezzling? How could she not know? The Guardian, former SNP chief Peter Murrell admits 400k embezzlement. The Telegraph, Sturgeon must come clean, quote unquote, over husband's 400k theft. She knew nothing, remember? And that was it. Married for 15 years. Right, let's move on to something more pertinent to the United States, because construction on George Floyd Square is set to begin in 2 weeks in Minneapolis as they revamp the memorial site 6 years after his murder at the hands of a police officer. The intersection of 38th Street and Chicago Avenue, now known as George Floyd Square, has become a gathering place for the community to honour Floyd. And at the end of March, the city announced that street and infrastructure improvements on George Floyd Square would begin in June and would be completed next year. Today, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey took to X to say, "Today we remember George Floyd, who was murdered by a former Minneapolis police officer 6 years ago. That moment changed our city forever. It forced Minneapolis to confront painful truths about race, policing, inequity and trust, and demanded hard conversations and accountability. Since Floyd's murder, our city has been challenged not just to say we've changed, but to prove it." Well, here was Mayor Frey at the funeral of George Floyd.
Joy comes in the morning. Troubles, they don't last always.
Mayor of Minneapolis. Minnesota. Right, Laurie, George Floyd, 6 years on. What have we learned, if anything?
I don't know. The police body cams that we were talking about earlier, that issue, I think that there's been a lot of improvements in more cities and towns getting body cams, and I think that had a lot to do with leading from those efforts of not just black men, it was black women as well, but people being killed at the hands of law enforcement and police officers, majority more than not wrongfully accused or wrongfully identified or going to the wrong doors and things like that. So, for example, back in Minneapolis, when the National Guard was deployed, like you were saying, some instances it's either it helps law enforcement or it helps the citizen or the public with those body cams, right? But it all helps, I think, contribute to evidence in case there are legal cases, where you need to gather evidence to determine exactly what happened, and from multiple different angles, of course.
Was the response to George Floyd's murder justified? The burning down of cities, billions in damage, people all over the world taking the knee, putting down statues and so on. Was that justified, do you think?
Do I support people doing those things? No, absolutely not. Burning down cities and starting riots? No, that was absolutely destructive, disturbing, and cost these cities a lot of money, and absolutely closed down many small businesses because of it as well, that lost their businesses because they were burned to the ground.
Why did they do that, though? So why did they do it? Because George Floyd, look, no one deserves to die in the hands of police custody, but George Floyd was a drug addict. He had fentanyl, meth in his system, cannabis, he'd had a 90% blocked artery, he had heart disease. But even before the officer, Derek Chauvin, knelt on his neck, when he was in the squad car, he was saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. He'd held a gun up to a woman's abdomen during a violent robbery years prior. So he was a convict, he was a felon, not a very nice guy. Why are they now making George Floyd Square in Minneapolis?
Because he didn't deserve to die, and I guess the community wants to make this memorial to remember him by, and the horrific incident that the entire community, the United States,
but it's as if he's a saint. It's as if he's some sort of like some martyred saint who was like a pillar of the community.
That's what it is. It's to commemorate a very monumental occurrence, a situation, an incident that took place that forever
that's my
changed
point. Why was
their
it so
city.
monumental?
You'll have to ask them.
People die at the hands of cops wrongly day in, day out in America.
He didn't deserve to die.
No, he didn't. I'm not saying he did.
All those things you rattled off, he still didn't deserve to die.
No, and I said that. Of course he didn't deserve to die. But I'm just saying people die at the hands of police day in, day out all across America, very wrongly, you know, murdered as well by police. So I don't understand what the fanfare was, Niall. Why did this spark such a massive an emotional response where they burnt down cities?
Well, by that time, it had been a record number of individuals. I could look it up if you go to Niles, but a record number of individuals, predominantly black males, who had been murdered at the hands of police. That's why. And the whole entire thing was on camera. It wasn't the after effects, Ben. People witnessed, and it included the reactions of those innocent bystanders that happened to be there either inside the convenience store or out on the sidewalk, that were also recording it and seeing their reactions. It was a very human, as a journalist, I'm sure you would agree, it was a very humanistic experience and emotion that many people were feeling at the time, and it was everywhere, all over the news, and that's why people were covering the trial afterwards, because it was sensationalized.
Jump in. You know, I think that you know, the death of George Floyd was just used as an excuse by you know, looters, criminals, to cause you know, massive destruction across the United States, and I think the aftermath resulted in a huge number of people being the victims of looters and rioters and widespread disorder, and also resulted, of course, in the ridiculous scenes of you know, figures like Keir Starmer, for example, and the entire Labour.
Well, they took the knee. Let's remind ourselves of them taking the knee.
Taking the knee, and BLM, of course, a hugely corrupt organisation.
Scam organisation.
Yeah, and so I think that this was just used as an excuse for widespread
these two.
Criminality,
is that our Prime Minister?
Looting and destruction, and you know, and Keir Starmer, really, I mean, what a disgrace, I have to say, and. You know, this photo represents everything that's wrong with Keir Starmer and his, you know, and his weak-kneed government. Literally, they're going on their hands and their knees here, and this is a symbol of the entire Labour government right there in one, you know, in one picture. And certainly the legacy of George Floyd's killing has been one of rampant destruction across the United States. And for some reason, you know, Keir Starmer has played along with all of that.
Yeah, and also, let's get Leo Kurtz into this as well. Leo, hello. One interesting observation from me is the response after George Floyd, where they burnt down cities, they were violent, people died, they caused billions of dollars worth of damage. When Charlie Kirk was killed, they went to hold a massive memorial at a football stadium, and they were worshipping Jesus and singing worship music. I don't know if we've got any footage of that, but the response was, there we go, this is Charlie Kirk's memorial. I had the utmost privilege, one of the greatest days of my life being there. I felt the Holy Spirit going through me, and I'm not massively religious, as viewers will know, but I felt something that day, and it was just a magical moment. And you had Erica Kirk taken to the stage saying, I forgive him, I forgive my husband's killer. And Leo, the response after George Floyd, who by the way, is in no way comparable to the character of Charlie Kirk, was to go and burn down cities, and now they're building George Floyd Square in Minnesota. I don't understand it. Am I missing something?
Yeah, and for some reason, our authorities and our society kowtows to the people who riot and who threaten violence. I think it's a terrible response that just encourages that, and to see parts of society as unable to express themselves any other way other than through violence and rioting. I think is the sort of the racism of the low expectations. That's the racism you see from the left quite frequently. What's interesting as well is when you see other people such as Irina Zarutska, who was stabbed to death on public transport by a black man who said he said I got that white girl. So clearly, a racially motivated attack. He said that people around him didn't stop him, didn't seem particularly alarmed, to be honest. I don't know if that's because they were the same from the same demographic, but her death, I found that deeply shocking. This vulnerable young woman who's alone on public transport being brutalized and murdered like that. She hadn't taken any fentanyl. She hadn't lived that life, and her murals get defaced. Nobody riots for her. Her murals get defaced. It's a weird inversion of what we should be doing. One thing I will say about George Floyd,
girls' murals get defaced there.
Yep, absolutely.
The poor girl from the training in Carolina.
Yep, her murals get defaced, they get Antifa graffiti on them. But one thing I will say about George Floyd is he's a victim of COVID lockdown. He's not a victim of police brutality. I think Derek Chauvin. I think that's a miscarriage of justice. And I think if it wasn't such a politically and socially sensitive case, I think that would be seen by everybody. But George Floyd was a victim of lockdown restrictions. He was working as a bouncer. He was working as a nightclub bouncer before lockdown struck, and then when he was made unemployed, obviously we shouldn't turn to crime, but he had counterfeit money and all the rest of it, and he's taking drugs. I mean, I think if he'd been able to keep his job and stay working, he'd still be alive today.
Yeah, and the reason the police were called to that fateful day for George Floyd was because he was in a grocery store with a fake $20 note. It was never established whether he knew it was a fake bill or not, but that was the reason they were called to the site. Okay, interesting. Niall, have we? Why do people deface the memorial of the poor Ukrainian girl stabbed on that train in Carolina in the neck? We all saw that graphic, awful footage. What is the thinking behind that? What's going on there?
There's some truly sick, evil, far left individuals who think that it's okay to deface a memorial to a Ukrainian refugee who fled to the United States for safe haven but was brutally murdered on a train. And I think that it's a sickness of the heart of the far left here in the United States. You can see the same sickness in Britain and across Europe as well. Now, in contrast, you look at those who mourned Charlie Kirk, brutally assassinated, shot. There were no riots. There was no looting. There was no violence. And I think there's a real problem here in the United States with the far left, who have no sense of moral decency, extremely violent, and the defacing memorials to a Ukrainian refugee who was savagely killed on a train. I mean, this is a low point.
People
really
are mad.
It's a low point for the United States, but it's the actions of some truly vicious and heartless individuals.
This is what happened in London after the murder of George Floyd. People taking to the streets, forcing coppers, by the way. Do you remember?
Yes.
Forcing coppers to take the knee.
Yeah. Yes, and also it's significant that in these BLM protests that you had protesters actually setting fire to the Union Jack at the cenotaph, the most sacred war memorial in the United Kingdom, a memorial to Britain's war dead. And you had BLM protesters who set the Union Jack on fire, actually, in the name of George Floyd and BLM, and absolutely shocking, horrific scenes. And I don't think those individuals were ever, dealt with by the legal system. I think they were allowed off scot-free. What an absolute disgrace! Sickening scenes actually that we saw in London.
Yep. Okie doke. Well, George Floyd Square. Niall, are you going to be taking a visit? George Floyd Square in Minnesota?
Definitely not.
No. Is Laurie, you fancy going down there?
If I make it that way.
If you make
perhaps.
it that way. Yeah. Leo, are you going to be getting on a plane at Heathrow and going to George Floyd Square? Are you interested?
Oh, in honour of George Floyd, I'm going to be walking everywhere on my knees this week.
Good man. Expected nothing less of you. Okay, let's move on. gbnews.com/your say. Somebody said Charlie Kirk's death was a loss to the world. Who else said? Jackie said, Ben Leo, the Holy Spirit came upon you that day at Charlie Kirk's memorial. You are blessed. Build on that. It did. I can't sort of articulate what it was like at Charlie Kirk's memorial. I had something going through me which was, I just can't describe it in words. It was, I guess it was the Holy Spirit. An extraordinary day. And as I said, compare that memorial where Erica Kirk says, I forgive my husband's killer. You have worship music, people crying and praising Jesus Christ, to that of the George Soros-funded riots all across America and Minneapolis and burning down cities, killing people, causing billions of dollars worth of damage. Something going on there, something for you to ponder about, the comparison. Okay, let's move on. The president of the Iranian Football Federation has said the team's World Cup training base has been moved from the USA to Mexico after getting approval from FIFA. I think the US didn't want the Iranians training in the United States. Mehdi Taj, who's the president of the Iranian Football Federation, he announced the decision Saturday in a statement issued by the federation's media relations official. FIFA hasn't confirmed the move, but Iran have been scheduled to train in how do you pronounce that, Laurie? Tucson, Arizona. But a move has been a possibility because of uncertainty surrounding the war in the Middle East and security concerns. Anyway, they've moved to Mexico. Why wouldn't the Americans want the Iranians training in the United States?
That's really interesting to me, because I thought that if you were in active war, or if you have sanctions and all these kinds of restrictions that we have with Iran right now, that we wouldn't be allowing them to come into the country to play sports for whatever reason, because we control the visas, right? So we'd have to accept them.
Yeah.
And I want to accept athletes. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't come after me. That's not. I actually would love for them to come here and practice in the United States, but it is a very tricky situation diplomatically, because when you are hosting, that means you are hosting within your country, within your borders, and those people that are now within your borders and bounds are subjected to your laws and your rules as well.
Yeah, interesting. No?
Yeah, and we are at war, of course, with the Iranian regime, and I think with good reason the United States does not want the Iranian team, which may include, well, perhaps not the players themselves, but the officials who will be traveling with them are agents of the Iranian dictatorship, actually. And so this is the key reason why the United States does not want the Iranian team actually staying on US soil. They're going to be housed in Mexico instead. They're playing 3 games in the first round, 2 in Los Angeles, I think 1 in Seattle, but with good reason. And for security reasons, the United States is not allowing the Iranian team to actually stay physically in the United States, other than to take part in the 3 opening round games. And I think that's the right decision taken by the Trump administration.
Okay, one more quick story. Candidates in the 2026 LA mayoral election, Spencer Pratt has a bold new policy for dealing with the 40,000 homeless people in the city. Take a look at this.
What are your plans for the over 40,000 homeless in Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, they're not homeless. They're drug addicts. Most of these people are addicted to fentanyl and meth. This isn't Spencer making it up.
Are you saying they don't have homes?
There is places for all of these people to sleep in LA. No matter what anybody tells you, we have housing and shelter for everyone that's living on the street. These people have been bussed in by scam rehabs, scam NGOs, scam homeless nonprofits. Yeah. These people, when I unplug them and say, we're not taking our tax money anymore, they're all going to Seattle, where the mayor will welcome them.
Laurie, this guy's an interesting prospect, because he was a reality TV star. His home got burnt down in the Palisades, and now he's maybe a front runner for the mayorship. Are you impressed by his social media game?
I'm impressed by his game for sure. The way he was also able to raise an exceedingly high amount of money. I think it was like $30 million? $30 million that he was able to raise in 1 month. 27 of that like within 3 weeks. So I think that that's very impressive. He's definitely giving the establishment a run for their money. But what I think is really cutting through with voters is his authenticity. He is a person, no matter what his past is or what you think about him, he actually lived in the Palisades. He actually was a person who, by failures of policies within Los Angeles County for a lot of the reasons, he lost his home. His son lost his school. They lost their neighborhood. They lost their community. So yeah, this is one of the issues for him. He feels like, I sound like a spokesperson for him now, geez. He feels like he's lost his home, his place, like you guys speak about all the time about the UK, that you feel like you're losing your way because of immigration. He feels that way about what has been going on and allowed to go on in California. I used to live in California for 3 years.
Yeah.
It's so expensive. People are moving, as you know, everywhere because of the problems.
Yeah. Mark, very quickly, sorry, you got 10 seconds.
Well, it's probably, I think it's no doubt a popular message that he's giving there. I'm not sure how the people of Seattle are going to respond to receiving all of the homeless being sent off from Los Angeles. But it's a huge issue, of course, in LA. And it may well be one of the top issues, actually, in the election.
All right. Thanks, Niall. Right, more coming up on The Late Show Live in the next hour, including this.
This is the first step to creating a future where performance, integrity, and science advance forward together and unlock our true human potential beyond elite sports.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's going to be another very hot day for parts of England and Wales today. Most of the country seeing plenty of sunshine, and that heat may give way to a few thunderstorms later this afternoon. So out there, first thing this morning, we do have some cloud across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe 1 or 2 sprinkles of rain here. But for England and Wales, a sunny morning, and that's going to give way to another very warm, if not hot, afternoon to come, especially across the far south of the country. Could see highs again reaching 34 or 35 degrees. A very exceptional spell of heat for the time of year. A little bit fresher further north, so a bit more comfortable here with temperatures reaching the low 20s. Into this evening, as I mentioned, we could potentially just see a few thunderstorms break out, but I think most of us remaining dry across the south with some plenty of late evening sunshine, and a fairly quiet evening to come across Northern Ireland and Scotland too, although we could continue to see some cloud across eastern Scotland, and that may again just give the odd spit and spot of rain. Overnight, very little changes. The cloud across eastern Scotland will spread its way a little bit further south to encompass parts of northern England. But for most of us, it's a fairly quiet night. Under the clear skies, we may just see the odd fog patch form, but especially across the south, another very warm night to come. Quite uncomfortable to sleep for some of us, but a little bit fresher further north, so certainly a bit more comfortable to sleep across Scotland. Into Wednesday, we will see a change in the east on Wednesday, picking up a bit more of a breeze here, so temperatures certainly much lower here compared to recent days, and that may again trigger the odd shower. The cloud across eastern parts of Scotland and northern England will gradually work its way back towards the coastline as the day goes on, with the best of the sunshine out towards the western half of the UK. And it's here where we see the highest of the temperatures. Again, we could see low 30s across the southwest, but certainly a little bit fresher down towards the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning, hope you're well. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
Social media is putting our children at risk. And in a world in which children are protected, even if that means access is restricted, that is preferable to a world where harm is the price of participation.
Full of energy, isn't he, the Prime Minister? A new survey suggested that over 8 in 10 parents would support applying the same age ratings used in cinemas and films to social media content. Would it be an act of safeguarding or just nanny state overreach?
This is the first step to creating a future where performance, integrity, and science advance forward together and unlock our true human potential beyond elite sports.
Welcome to the Enhanced Games. It's an event in Las Vegas where athletes are allowed to take performance-enhancing drugs, take as much dope and steroids and testosterone as you want. It's all legal in the games anyway. It's divided opinion though. Was it a bold experiment or does it risk undermining the integrity of competitive sport?
God bless our fallen heroes. We're joined today by some of those they left behind, our incredible Gold Star families.
President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance have led a wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia today for the annual commemoration of Memorial Day. Can honouring fallen troops bring a divided America together? I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. No breaks. I love that Enhanced Games story. I think whilst most normal Olympic athletes are probably cheating their socks off, the Enhanced Games just said, look guys, go and do what you want, find whatever drugs or performance enhancing potions and cocktails you can get your hands on, and then we'll all come together and see who's the best. I think it's great. Joining me in Washington is former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and the former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, and in London, he is au natural, no performance-enhancing drugs going on there, Leo Kearse. Unless you want to tell me otherwise, Leo.
Can I say what I thought you were starting to say instead of performance enhancing? Like
Yes.
drugs, like recreational. And I was like, oh my gosh, because it was in Las Vegas, but then you said performance enhancing. It could probably be that as well, right?
Well, that'd be quite...
Recreational
well,
drugs.
I think
like
it's probably
people just
included.
getting zooted out of their minds and wanting to fight.
That's interesting because there was a snowboarder who was disqualified from the Winter Olympics for testing positive for cannabis, and I can't think of any performance that's enhanced by smoking cannabis. I think it makes you worse at everything. I mean, if I look at my friends, it definitely makes you worse at holding down a job and filling in forms.
Cannabis. There's many other drugs, Leo, than cannabis that goes around on the streets of Las Vegas.
Yeah, but
this guy was.
I saw, yeah.
Yeah, performance wrecking.
But athletes use it for recovery. That's what you need to know.
Yeah.
So that's why he could have had it in his system, Leo. Not necessarily before he goes and hits, whatever his athletic
event is.
He looked like his system had recovered. Probably there's an abundance of recovery by the state of him.
All right, we're getting onto this in more depth in just a tick with an expert as well, so hang tight. But for now, breaking on GB News in the last few moments, a new survey has suggested that over 8 in 10 parents would support applying the same age ratings used in cinemas to social media content. So a poll of 2,000 parents who have children aged 12 to 17 found that more than half chose harmful content as their primary concern when it came to their child's well-being. 75% of the respondents said that they would be more likely to let their child use social media if its content was under this type of moderation. And reported in the Times tonight, social media is the new smoking, apparently. Medical leaders have declared, putting the Prime Minister under increasing pressure to commit himself to a total ban for under-16s, which is supported, by the way, by Angela Rayner. A report by the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges warns of an epidemic of harm to children continuously exposed to hateful, addictive and grossly distressing content. I wonder if that applies to Zia Yusuf's video that was banned by TikTok momentarily about immigration. Hateful and grossly distressing. So would applying age ratings to social media content be a proportionate act of safeguarding or an attack on choice and an act of nanny state overreach? Well, with me now is the founding partner of cyber law firm Star Cashman. Star, hello, thank you for joining us this morning on The Late Show Live. Ratings, PG ratings and so on to social media content. I just don't know actually logistically how that would work, Star. What's your thoughts?
I completely agree with you. I do think that there's an extent to which these social media platforms do have the resources. They have the financial resources. Obviously, they have the technical capabilities to implement a lot of safeguards and protective measures. However, implementing this kind of a complex system where each specific piece of content would have to be greatly vetted, there would need to be a lot of human intervention as well to even train an AI system to be able to sort content in this kind of manner. It doesn't seem as feasible as a protective measure. It is true that Instagram has previously said that they were able to sort teens into some sort of PG-13 category. So it is possible that the capability is there, but I do see it being very difficult to implement.
OK, what do you make, Star, whilst I've got you here, what do you make of proposals in the UK to ban social media for under-16s? Does that work? Australia has done it. Well, I know they have. They've done it. But they get around it with VPNs a lot of the time.
Yeah, of course, there are definitely always going to be workarounds. I actually do not believe that bans, even if it's for a certain age group, I don't believe that that is the proper solution. I feel that it is putting a Band-Aid on a wound, and it's not the proper way to heal a problem. I will say that when different regions and different areas in Europe has threatened this, there has been a change. It has made an impact on tech companies. For example, Grok, Elon Musk, and X. When Grok was notifying individuals without their consent, this threat did push for that change that was necessary in Twitter to make that safer. However, banning it outright does not address the issue, and there will be workarounds, as you said. This is kind of a lazy way, in my opinion, of addressing a deeper-rooted issue that really has to come from regulation within these tech companies themselves to make them safe.
Yeah, interesting. I did support a ban on social media and phones in schools for under 16s. But then my colleague in London tonight, Leo Kirst, made a really good point about children no longer being able to film potential, I don't know, what's the word, offences or interesting stuff going on in their classrooms. Particularly, it's another conversation, I won't bore you with it, but we've had migrants posing as kids when actually they're 44-year-olds from Islamabad. So, different conversation. Star, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Star Cashman, founding partner of Cyber Law Firm. Let's get the thoughts of Leo in London, Niall Gardner and Laurie as well. Leo, do you remember that story doing the rounds a couple of months ago where some 18-year-old said that he had PTSD and he was his life was destroyed because he saw some harmful content at school on a phone of, I don't know what, I can't remember what it was. But I remember when I was at school, I unfortunately, when I was about 13 or 14, I unfortunately saw the beheading video of Ken Bigley at the hands of, was it Al-Qaeda back then or ISIS, one of those despots. All sorts of stuff, Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, all that kind of thing. I just don't think you can ever get away with it. No matter how much state intervention or sort of policies on social media, you are always going to be able to come across that kind of stuff. And if not, your mates will just send it to you on WhatsApp.
Yeah, I mean, while I agree with you in principle, and I was a libertarian, I think I've got libertarian instincts. I then had children, and having children like immediately changes you from a libertarian into a Victorian conservative. And yeah, I really do think the internet is so wild now, and especially with stuff like pornography. Like pornography is available on literally every device in my house, and I think it has such an impact on especially younger people, and especially stupid people. If you I've seen interviews with guys that are coming from Africa to the UK, and they think that pornography is real. They don't have a sort of concept of no, the women won't be like that when you get here. I mean, unless you're in Tiger. But I think it creates like the case we were talking about earlier with the gypsy travellers, the youths who gang raped those girls. I think pornography can feed into their ideas about women. I mean, the judge even said that one of them he was in the bottom 1% of IQ. So when somebody's that stupid, they're essentially sociopathic because they don't have the capacity for feeling sympathy or empathy. They can't do those things. So I really do think we need to do something to protect children from exposure to. I'm not so much worried about violence or ISIS beheadings. I think it's important that people understand that those horrific things happen, and if you let the people who like to behead people come to the UK, we're going to get beheaded too. But for stuff like pornography and Green Party propaganda, we absolutely have to make sure it's scrubbed from the internet.
Yeah, I was like you, Leo. I was a proper libertarian before I had kids. I said people should be able to take whatever drugs they want and do what you want. I'm more conservative for sure. However, great point on pornography, because there is an epidemic. There is I'd call it a pandemic of particularly young boys who are growing up from a very early age. I'll say again. I'll use this story of mine. The first porn I ever saw inadvertently was walking down an alleyway where people had thrown away sort of top shelf magazines which had been drenched in the rain. That was a big deal. It was like,
that wasn't rain.
Yeah. Well, so Leo, why? Anyway, my point being, kids now, young boys, are accessing the most graphic, hardcore porn, and they're growing up thinking this kind of sex is normal, where they're choking women and spitting on women. And there's been many interviews from young ladies, 15, 16-year-olds, who say, look, the first ever time I had sex, I was choked and spat on, and I think this is normal because this is just how children my age now think this is how it goes. Forget some romantic first time when you lose your virginity. The kids' minds are so warped through the accessibility of pornography now. You make a great point. That is the more pressing issue, Laura. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
Yes, I do think that especially young boys are learning pornography is one of the ways that they are getting messaged to and seeing these graphic things of violence against women, that they think that this is acceptable behavior. And in what they don't understand also is there's no disclaimer, is that these are sex workers. These people are not doing this for pleasure. They are doing this for work. That is their job. I say that because that experience is not one in which kind of you just went into and described of the same situation and experience that they even think that they're seeking, right? And that women actually want that. And I've heard from friends' children, they're like, yeah, this guy said to me, I thought that's what you wanted. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And it goes to your point, Ben, because they're watching these videos, and if that's the only example that they have, and it's being celebrated and congratulated and seen as this macho, machismo, masculine type behavior and attitude that is revered amongst males and being put on a pedestal, especially by the president here in the United States, they see this as an example and take it as, okay, these people are telling me this is who I need to be and how I should show up in the world, and that's just not right.
No, even Ross Kemp, there's an infamous clip of Ross Kemp interviewing a migrant from Sudan or somewhere where he's saying, what would you do if a lady said, no, I don't want to have sex with you? And he says, no, fine, I carry on, I have sex. And Ross Kemp says, that's rape. You know that's rape. And he says, well, no, my needs need to be met. He has no concept of rape or what consent is.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point there, Ben. And you know, without a doubt, I think that a very high percentage of rapes carried out in the UK and across Europe are by migrants. Some countries in Europe track incidences of rape actually by country of origin, Denmark, for example. And a huge percentage of rapes carried out in countries such as Denmark and across Europe are carried out actually by migrants, especially from third world Islamic countries.
Should we ban porn? Internationally, should there be an international effort to stop the porn industry?
Well, so I would say where I live in the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth, do you know that you can't access porn there, Ben? On the internet, unless you had a VPN?
I wouldn't.
No, I'm just saying, like, there's an example right here over the bridge of
UK as well. They
Commonwealths or states that here in the United States of America, they have deemed it that pornography is banned, basically within the state boundaries.
Well, they've done it in the UK now with the Online Safety Act. You need to register to porn sites, give your details, give a picture to verify your age.
I misspoke, excuse me. In Virginia, you have to register. It's not banned. You have to register. And the problem that people have with that, right, is about that's a violation of my privacy. That's a violation of my First Amendment rights because you are tracking me. It's like Big Brother tracking. So a lot of states have not done that because they think that it's too much government oversight. And so
just ban it. Just ban porn
internationally. It's not universal across all 50 states.
Have an international treaty now where porn is banned, the industry's shut down. Go and find some other jobs, and I think in a couple of generations, we won't be so degenerate.
I think that actually would save a lot of lives, but also let's secure borders and end illegal migration, mass migration. That would also save a huge number of lives in Europe, actually.
Leo.
Without any doubt.
Leo, just last word on this. Would you back an international treaty? I know it will never happen, but to ban porn?
I don't think it'd be workable. I don't think it's feasible. I don't know. I genuinely don't know how we change this culture. Because the thing is, if you ban it, people will just use VPNs, and then if they're using VPNs, that's actually a gateway to other things like the dark net and things like that. So you don't want to create you don't want to push people into more illicit forms, more illicit areas where they can be exposed to even worse things.
Yeah, and actually it's unworkable anyway because people would just make their own sex films, share around on WhatsApp and so on social media. Just kids would just come across that content regardless whether it's made in a studio in Hollywood or not. Leo, nice one, mate. Thank you very much. Let's move on. The story I'm particularly interested in. The Enhanced Games were held on Sunday with competitors in Las Vegas vying for world records across different disciplines. People were waiting in fevered anticipation for the games, but the competition, of course, is not without controversy because usually sporting events have the stringent anti-doping policies, no testosterone, no steroids, no this, no that. But the enhanced games aim to see just how far records could be pushed if participants are permitted to use performance-enhancing drugs. I think it's a great idea. Well, for all the fanfare, spectators had to wait till the very last event of the night for Greek swimmer Christian Glocomiev to set a world record time in the 50 metres freestyle. Take a look.
Glocomiev coming now. That world record, 20.88. They're stroke for stroke. Proud Glocomiev, proud world record. 20.88 record. New world record.
I love it. The time set wasn't considered a world record, of course, because in addition to using performance-enhancing drugs, competitors also wore high-tech suits that are prohibited in other events. So was this event a bold experiment for the benefit of excited spectators, or does it just have serious implications for the integrity of competitive sport? With me now is former bodybuilding athlete Greg Novacek. Greg, great to see you. Questions first. Are you natty, or have you taken performance-enhancing drugs, if you don't mind me asking?
In the past, I absolutely have taken performance-enhancing drugs. Today, I am a therapeutic TRT patient.
Great. Okay. Well, it's worth pointing out, though, I will say, I have never taken performance-enhancing drugs, although I will get onto this. I'm considering taking peptides very soon. However, you still have to work hard if you're taking steroids or performance-enhancing drugs. You don't just sit there and inject yourself and then don't train, don't eat well, don't sleep, and then go and set world records in the pool or the track, right?
Correct. And I think actually the enhanced games proved that this weekend, because they were actually able to be used, openly used, and you only saw one world record be broken rather than through the whole gambit.
Oh. Just the one world record, and that was in the 50-metre freestyle, the clip we just saw?
Correct.
Oh. Well, does that say then, Greg, that these drugs aren't that performance-enhancing after all?
They absolutely are, but there's so many other factors. Genetics being number one, the lifestyle, the training, the skill, the talent, the night before, the psychological aspect of every single athlete knowing that they are on the world stage now, openly saying they are enhanced, all determines it. The margin of error, the margin between first and fifth place at that elite level is literally tenths of seconds.
So the comparison between the athletes at the enhanced games and Olympic athletes, the difference was tenths of seconds, are you saying?
Simply at that level, at any professional and elite level, when we look at people of first place, fifth place, 10th place, we think of these huge gaps between their performance. And the reality is that they are literally milliseconds or tenths of seconds.
Okay, interesting. Greg, we know from previous cases and just intuitively that the Olympics and so on, normal athletic competitions, world sport basically, is riddled with drug cheats. Probably loads who haven't ever been caught because of the advancement in science. They're constantly remaking, altering the chemical makeup and the molecular makeup of different drugs and so on to bypass testing. Why don't we just say in the Olympics, in world sport, do it like Formula One. Take whatever you want. It's a battle of engineering. It's a battle of technology. What can you get your hands on? Why don't we just do that? What is the sort of moral argument against it?
Personally, I believe it becomes a very important conversation for kids. Simply taking performance-enhancing drugs does not turn the 100th fastest man into the 5th fastest man. At that level, it is much more about recovery. It is much more about enduring an entire season that might last months. And if we tell all of our kids that all of our heroes are in fact enhanced, every child grows up thinking, if I want to be a professional sports player, I must also be enhanced.
Yeah, okay. And just tell us what you do now, Greg. You deal with TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy. There is a wave, I will say, in the UK, there's a wave of young men my age, or even as young as 20 plus, in the gym, pumping themselves with steroids, testosterone when they don't need it. What are the dangers of, let's use testosterone, what are the dangers of young men pumping themselves full of testosterone unnaturally?
So I think we want to make the distinction between replacement therapy, like actual therapeutic replacement, versus super physiological dosages, which then just creates. So the replacement itself is actually healthy for a man that is medically necessary for a man that needs it. When we start looking at the, again, super physiological dosages, the part into anabolics, then a lot of the side effects do come, most of them being based around the heart and the blood.
Yeah, and I guess that's why you see so many, for example, famous wrestlers, WWE wrestlers of yesteryear, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. I mean, they lost their minds, I think, those two, with steroid use and went on to commit horrific crimes. But lots of former wrestlers and athletes have died as a result of steroid abuse. And Greg, just tell me, I've mentioned it already, peptides seems to be a new thing. Everybody's talking about peptides. There's clinics all across the United States, indeed here in Washington, D.C. What are peptides and why are they different to, say, steroids?
Okay, so steroids, anabolics, it is a hormone that signals the body to do something. Peptides are simply a chain of amino acids that signals the body to do something. So they work a lot of the same way. They are natural in your body. Your body does produce them. And I think because of the TikTok culture and social media, a lot of these conversations have now come to living rooms, right? I mean, everybody are having these conversations now, and they are extremely trendy. Again, I think that there is a purpose, and we just always want to distinguish what is replacement, what is therapeutic replacement, what is optimization, and what is abuse, because those are three different categories.
Yeah, lots of people on social media injecting themselves with these peptides, these amino acids, synthetic amino acids. For example, you can get one that promotes collagen production in the skin and it makes your skin look great and you've got a nice glow. Or other people will take some a peptide to promote growth hormone. It'll signal your pituitary gland to make growth hormone. So people are injecting themselves with these peptides. They're getting them from clinics all across the country. Is there a risk, Greg, that not just athletes but normal everyday people are getting too obsessed with supplements and trying to tweak their behaviour for optimising their life and their fitness and their health? We don't know the long-term effects of these peptides, for starters.
One of the things I say is the rabbit hole of wellness is indefinite. And as deep as you want to go, you have Brian Johnson, who is spending $2 million a month, I believe, or something like that, to chase the reversing of the age. So I think there are balances. I think that there are a lot of lifestyle changes that people can make that get much farther than any kind of medication that you would have prescribed to you. But it is absolutely that it is a culture of a magic pill, or the GLPs is sort of what normalized it, in my opinion, of medications becoming,
Yeah. Okay, interesting conversation. Greg, thank you so much. Appreciate you being with us, and take care of yourself. Greg Novacek, former bodybuilding athlete and now TRT therapist. Laurie, what's your thoughts on the enhanced games? I just think everybody's cheating anyway in normal world sport, so just crack on with it.
You know what, Ben? It's another suck of people's energy and time when they could be doing other things for entertainment value, so whatever.
What do you mean? What doping in? I don't know what you mean. Sorry.
There's so many forms of entertainment these days. I mean, I don't care. It's just ways for people to make money, and if people find it entertaining and they're willing to put down their hard-earned dollars to go watch and travel and fly to Las Vegas to see stuff like that, great. And kudos to those athletes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all about anyone. I don't want to say overdoing with performance-enhancing drugs, because I have known people when I was younger who actually have died from overdoing it with those.
Oh, really? You had friends who?
Oh yeah, like injection. Yeah, there's two guys who were taking it when they were in college, and they were mixing it with alcohol, doing other drugs, and they lost their lives. So I'm not a fan of it by any means. But if someone wants to do it, not like an intramural, but they want to keep performing competitively with sports and want to challenge themselves and enter into something like this, great, go ahead. It's your body. Who cares? As long as there's disclaimers saying that these people are using X, Y, and Z. I don't care.
I think actually this does send a wrong message, as Greg said, to especially young men in the UK, in the United States, the Western world, who I know for a fact many people, young men, are pumping themselves with steroids, testosterone when they don't need it. When you pump your body with testosterone, your body stops making it because it says, I've got enough, I need to stop making it. So when you come off those injections, you then have no testosterone whatsoever. I mean, you're basically trans.
It does a lot to your sexual organs as well, men. So just please be mindful and know exactly what you are getting into when you do this. No, there's severe long-term physical consequences to men who take these drugs.
Yeah, they're awful. Niall, your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, yeah, it's a free market, and they have the right to do this. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's right or positive. I think it sends a lot of dangerous signals as well, and I think that it also undermines sport actually, which shouldn't be about enhancement.
I agree, but I'd argue a lot of people in legal sport today are doping. They're doping their heads off.
That may well be true, but I think that this does send the wrong signal. But at the same time, it's a free market, and people are choosing to attend events like this. It doesn't mean that there's anything positive about them. I would say they're extremely negative for sport overall.
No, and then I think it's probably going to get out of control very quickly. You're going to see companies want to sponsor people and athletes, and then that's, in my opinion, where you're going to see it really get out of balance.
Have you heard of peptides?
Yes, of course.
What's your take on them? Lots of clinics across DC.
Yeah, great.
Peptides. You think
peptides are amazing.
You don't put them in the same category as, say, anabolics or...
Well, they're not.
No.
They're just similar, but they're not.
Yeah, they're just synthetic
different components entirely.
All right, Leo Kearse, I trust you've been listening intently to that conversation. What's your take on the enhanced games?
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to do it for the Paralympics. I want to see, somebody with no arms or legs somehow moving faster than a dolphin through that water. I think they need to open it up, make it inclusive. But yeah, there's a comedian, Julian Dean, who's a mate of mine, who had the best joke about steroids ever. He said, people say steroids are dangerous, but I've been taking them since I was a little girl, and I'm fine. Because he's a bloke. But yeah, I think people need to be aware.
TRT.
Yeah, people need to be aware of the dangers.
Like TRT, you take so much testosterone, and literally your body stops making it. Your crown jewels shrink. You pretty much trans yourself anyway.
Yeah, so it affects your fertility, and it affects your ability for your body to make its own testosterone. So, if we, when we have this apocalypse, we're only a few months away from, there's only a certain amount of oil and internet left, and then we're going to descend into a Mad Max dystopia. And then, if your testicles aren't manufacturing, if your testicles aren't manufacturing your own testosterone, you're going to be ruined. You're going to look like Peter Murrell for the rest of your life. You're just going to be this pallid blob, just testosterone free. You're gonna start voting Democrat,
Oh, Leo.
They should do I'd love a massive study, a sample size of 10,000 Democrat voters versus 10,000 Republicans, and test their testosterone. I got mine tested last week, actually. I got the results 2 days ago. I had a massive blood test. I almost fainted. They took 14 vials of blood. It's a yearly test I get. They test everything. I almost fainted. My vision went tiny, black hole. My ears were ringing. I was seconds away from fainting. Anyway, it's a different conversation. But I got my testosterone back. Do you know what your testosterone levels are, Leo?
They were actually, I had them checked, and they were low. That was in Turkey, and I think their machine was faulty. And also, I hadn't had any sleep the night before. But it sounds like you don't need a testosterone test. You need some blood. You need blood in your body. It's like there's no point in testing your testosterone if you've got like half a teacup of blood in your veins.
I know, mate, honestly, it was awful. I've never fainted in my life, and I was seconds away. I said, they took 14 vials. I felt like I was severely drunk. I was saying, guys, you need to stop because I'm going to collapse in a minute.
Suck the life out of you.
I had to sit in the chair afterwards for 30 to 40 minutes, and I felt awful all day. I had to go home and sleep it off all day. My central nervous system was wiped out.
You want a juice?
I went to Pret and had 5 cookies. I needed to get something in me. Anyway, another conversation. But I got my testosterone checked. No, have you ever had your testosterone checked?
No, I don't think there are any issues there, actually.
See, you have no idea. You're the kind of guy that you have no idea until you go check.
Yeah, anyway.
Especially if you want to have a family, guys. I'm dead serious about this as a public service announcement. The earlier you go get your testosterone levels checked, the better off you will be.
It's also about sort of, yeah, it could be like Brian Johnson, the billionaire who wants to live forever, talks about plastics, microplastics in his what's the word? In his fluid and all that kind of stuff, and promotes saunas and things, which is a valid point. Maybe that's why the birth rate has gone down, Leo, in recent decades, because we've got microplastics everywhere. Even things like radiation, you know, potentially from phones in your pocket. Last word on that, do you care about that?
Yeah, no, I do. But also, it's interesting, we've got all these issues with microplastics and hormones in the water and stuff, but we're actually living longer than we've ever lived in human history. So I think in like a few hundred years' time, you know how you've got the paleo diet now? In a few hundred years' time, you'll have the millennial diet, and it'll be people trying to eat the same things, trying to grate microplastics into their food, and you know, get the right balance of toxins in the water to make sure they live as long as we do.
Yeah, I can imagine in maybe 100, 200 years we'll be living until 150, maybe beyond that with science and technology. You never know. I'm not sure if I want to live that long, actually. Anyway, Leo, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live this evening.
God bless our fallen heroes. We're joined today by some of those they left behind, our incredible Gold Star families.
President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance have laid a wreath at the Arlington National Ceremony today in commemoration of Memorial Day. It's a big holiday here in the United States to honour fallen troops and military personnel, particularly those who have died. A bit different to Veterans Day, who are still alive for the most part. Today was all about those who have died in past conflicts. Can honouring fallen troops bring a divided America together? We'll be discussing that next, but first, here's your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's going to be another very hot day for parts of England and Wales today. Most of the country seeing plenty of sunshine, and that heat may give way to a few thunderstorms later this afternoon. So out there, first thing this morning, we do have some cloud across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe 1 or 2 sprinkles of rain here. But for England and Wales, a sunny morning, and that's going to give way to another very warm, if not hot, afternoon to come, especially across the far south of the country. Could see highs again reaching 34 or 35 degrees. A very exceptional spell of heat for the time of year. A little bit fresher further north, so a bit more comfortable here with temperatures reaching the low 20s. Into this evening, as I mentioned, we could potentially just see a few thunderstorms break out, but I think most of us remaining dry across the south with some plenty of late evening sunshine, and a fairly quiet evening to come across Northern Ireland and Scotland too, although we could continue to see some cloud across eastern Scotland, and that may again just give the odd spit and spot of rain. Overnight, very little changes. The cloud across eastern Scotland will spread its way a little bit further south to encompass parts of northern England. But for most of us, it's a fairly quiet night. Under the clear skies, we may just see the odd fog patch form, but especially across the south, another very warm night to come. Quite uncomfortable to sleep for some of us, but a little bit fresher further north, so certainly a bit more comfortable to sleep across Scotland. Into Wednesday, we will see a change in the east on Wednesday, picking up a bit more of a breeze here, so temperatures certainly much lower here compared to recent days, and that may again trigger the odd shower. The cloud across eastern parts of Scotland and northern England will gradually work its way back towards the coastline as the day goes on, with the best of the sunshine out towards the western half of the UK. And it's here where we see the highest of the temperatures. Again, we could see low 30s across the southwest, but certainly a little bit fresher down towards the southeast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance have led a wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia for the annual commemoration of Memorial Day.
God bless our fallen heroes. We're joined today by some of those they left behind, our incredible Gold Star families, incredible people. To every person here and across America who holds tight to the memory of a warrior taken from them, we will never, ever forget the ones you loved.
During his speech, the president singled out individual members of the armed forces for praise. It included Staff Sergeant Keith Ware, who is a descendant of the fighting general Keith Ware, who was honoured for his service in the Battle of the Bulge is that how you pronounce it, Niall?
Battle of the Bulge,
Yeah,
yeah.
Battle of the Bulge, yeah, in World War II. The president also paid tribute to Sergeant First Class Matthew McClintock, who led a daring rescue mission during the US war in Afghanistan. But with America currently divided by the Iran war and the event coinciding with the 250th anniversary celebrations of America's independence, just what significance does Memorial Day have in bringing a divided country together in tribute to its fallen heroes? Well, with me now is US Air Force veteran, VA accredited attorney and veterans policy advocate Benjamin Krause. Benjamin, good to see you. Always a sort of poignant day, Memorial Day, and the equivalent in the United Kingdom as well. Will this bring a divided America together? Can people put their political sort of rivalries aside to commemorate the dead?
I think Memorial Day is always a great time in our country, regardless of whether you're a Democrat or Republican. It kicks off our summer, but most importantly, it's an opportunity for us to talk about the broader discussion of what it is to be an American, the sacrifices that others have paid, and the ultimate sacrifice here on Memorial Day that begins the move into our 250th anniversary of the United States of America.
Okay, and in terms of the different days you have here, you have Memorial Day, which focuses on those who have died in conflict, and the other significant day is Veterans Day. Why is it different, Veterans Day?
Well, Veterans Day is for everybody who served in uniform, and it honors those of us that did sign up to protect and defend our country. Memorial Day, on the other hand, is for those in America and elsewhere to remember the individuals who paid the ultimate sacrifice. For those of us who did come home, it's a rather humbling opportunity for us to remember those that did pay dearly and paid their lives to protect our country.
And if you don't mind, Benjamin, can you just tell our viewers about, who don't know, maybe some don't know, maybe some do, about Arlington Cemetery in Virginia? It's on the border of DC, of course. It's a mile or two down the road. Why is Arlington Cemetery so significant? And why does it hold events such as this, Memorial Day commemorations?
Well, it's the closest cemetery of its kind, national cemetery to the White House. And so for that reason, its proximity in and of itself is an obvious opportunity for the president and for those that are in the White House to pay their respects on Memorial Day. It's also one of the most captivating and haunting cemeteries in the United States, with its tombstones and how the sun flows over the grave sites. It's an incredible site, and additionally, again, it's right at the steps going into or near the White House, and so it's an obvious pick for the president and those that serve to pay their respects.
Yeah, it's a fantastic site, well worth visiting. I went there with my wife and kids. When was it? October. You've got the tomb of the unknown soldier. There's even an English field marshal there from what period was it? Was it the Second World War? And it's just kind of sobering, the number of graves, the small sort of beige white tombstones there, which mark the resting site of just thousands of US military personnel. And sometimes as well in DC, you hear when you hear funerals taking place there as well, you hear the guns going off, the salutes and so on. It's pretty emotional. It's a special place. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for your company. Really appreciate it. Benjamin Krause there. Laurie, Memorial Day, important day here in the United States?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought they were going to show a video that I shared with them. I was at the National Memorial Day concert last night at the U.S. Capitol.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
How was that?
It was incredibly moving.
Like a musical concert?
It's very emotional. Oh, yeah. It was broadcast live on PBS for the whole entire time. It was over an hour. The National Symphony Orchestra. Thank you, Meredith, for the opportunity to go and see you play. My friend, she plays the violin. Yeah, it was with star-studded, artists. Nikki Guyton started off with the Star-Spangled Banner. Alan Jackson. Many different musical artists played, so it was great.
And there were some prominent Democrats who have been posting about Memorial Day today. This is one of them, talking about Trump's war of choice with Iran. Let's just get that up and take a quick look. It says, today, it's from the Democrats' account on X, today we honour the American heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice in Trump's war with Iran. So it's the, is it 13? 5, 10, yeah, 13 who have died in the Iran conflict. No, that's a bit grubby, isn't it, to politicise Memorial Day like
I
that?
think it's very bad form, actually, and really disgraceful. This is not Trump's war with Iran. This is America's war against a fundamentally evil Islamist terrorist regime. Actually, let's not forget that point. And for Democrats to politicize Memorial Day and also the memory of brave and courageous American servicemen and women who've given their lives for their country, I think this is a new low, actually, for the Democrats. It's absolutely appalling to see this on a very special day. Memorial Day is a very special day for all Americans, remembering those who have given their lives for their country, and for the Democrats to turn this into some sort of political day, actually, to take pot shots at the US president. I think it's extremely low form, and it's it's beneath contempt, actually, these kinds of political attacks. They should be ashamed of themselves, actually, for doing this.
Yeah, that's a pretty disgusting thing to do. Laurie, what's your... do you disapprove of that kind of politicising Memorial Day like that?
I don't think sharing the names and photographs of soldiers, that U.S. service members who have died in this conflict that was started by President Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, that you wouldn't discuss them. And what I think is abhorrent, and that I think, Niall, you should be concerned about, is the fact that our president, Secretary of Defense, etc., went to Arlington National Cemetery today, and I didn't see the speech, so they could have, but you're not showing it here, so I don't imagine that he did. He didn't mention them. He should have mentioned every single one of their names. What did I do when I got on your program earlier? I mentioned them. I mention them every single time I go on TV to do a TV interview, because how dare we not talk about the casualties and those who have lost their lives for our freedom, and not just for the United States' freedom, for the world's freedom.
I agree, and we thank
that's what this holiday is about, and that's who I was amongst and standing with yesterday and last night, was family members and service members, active duty and veterans, and people from the military community. I'm one of them, and it just felt like a really great and heartwarming place to be. Of course, filled with sorrow and tears, showing some of the history of our country and what makes it so great, 250 years, but also a lot of the tragedy, talking about indivisible wounds of war as well, the implications of that, and what these service members go through, and the importance of their sacrifice. And that's what I focus on today, and I will always focus on. And I come from a family that's served. I was married also to a combat veteran, and I take these issues very seriously.
Yeah, and I thank those military personnel for their service who have died in Iran. However, you have to say that is politicising. They've done that to have a jab at President Trump and the government, quite clearly.
See the Capitol there? It was a very nice day.
Right, let's look at the Telegraph, which is reporting, I don't know if you guys ever had a paper round, but the death of the paper round. It's fueling Britain's youth unemployment crisis. Come off it. That's according to Pat McFadden. The Work and Pensions Secretary said the loss of traditional Saturday jobs was driving young people permanently out of employment because they don't learn the fundamental principles of work from a young age. Ministers will this week publish a major independent review of youth inactivity by Alan Milburn, the former Health Secretary under New Labour. Did you have a paper round, Niall, when you were a young nipper?
I didn't, but I used to read newspapers when I was very young.
Of course
and I still do today. And
did you ever work in a greasy spoon serving bacon sarnies as a teenager?
I'm afraid I did not, but I do think it's a sad day when the paper round has disappeared from British life. I mean, it's part and parcel of British culture. I think it's part and parcel of American culture as well, going back many decades. So it's a sad, very sad development, I think.
Leo Curtis in London, did you ever have a paper round? Did you have a job as a young teenager to kind of prep you for the real world?
No, I mean, I had jobs as a young teenager, but I was out in the countryside. So, you know, I'd have to go miles between houses if I was delivering papers. I don't think anybody had their papers delivered where I was growing up. I used to do beating. So I'd beat for pheasant shoots, for grouse shoots, things like that. My dad was a gunsmith, so I'd see him when I was working. But I think, you know, that there are other jobs that children could be doing. But the thing is, we've got people coming in, we've got adults coming in from the Horn of Africa, from wherever, who will do the job for even cheaper. And, you know, really, I think it's not helpful to society. You know, we're told we absolutely need mass immigration because who else is going to do these jobs? Kids would do these jobs. It used to be a thing, you know, having a Saturday job or whatever. And I think if there weren't like loads of people coming to the UK or any Western country willing to do the job for super cheap and willing to do it without question or without, you know, standing up for their rights or anything, if those guys weren't coming, then our teenagers would be doing those jobs again. And I think it would be good for the teenagers and it would be good for the country as well.
Yeah, I think you may get some third worlders, the ones we discussed earlier, who are pretending to be kids, then now doing paper rounds, dropping off, you know, going around on their bike, you know, from Kabul and Islamabad to Stourbridge and Slough, dropping papers off. Leo, it sounds like you grew up in an episode of a chapter of Mice and Men or something. Just explain. Were you on a farm or something? What's going on?
I didn't have a mouse in my pocket that I squished. But no, I just grew up in the countryside. I grew up like we lived by, you know, grouse moors. My dad was a gunsmith, so that's you know, that's the industry that when I say industry, it's not much of an industry, but you know, that's what I did for a bit of cash.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a wholesome upbringing. Better than sitting in front of an iPad or something like that.
Yeah, well, I've got to say one thing that wasn't so wholesome. One thing that wasn't so wholesome. Even when I was like doing it when I was 12, you got given a packed lunch and it always had a can of beer in it. So like, you have all these 12-year-old kids drinking a can of beer.
That's all right. Toughen you up.
So picture it, everyone. Picture it. It's 1978, and my parents, who are from the state of Maine, the most northern state here in the United States, moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so my dad could attend the Art Institute for Photography School. And guess what my father's job was, and my mother? My father had a newspaper delivery route with the Sun Sentinel and the Miami Herald. And when I was born in 1980, I don't know how long this lasted for, it was under a year, I would go in the back of their van to do the paper deliveries. I just remembered this as we were talking about this. So this was a great memory for me, so I like this topic. So thank you. You just made me think of my mom in like the best way.
So the van would drive around and you drop papers.
And this was the paper machines, right? So my dad would get out, and my mom, right? She'd probably be inside sorting them and hand him the piles, and then he'd be jumping out. And yeah, and these were like old school map days. You didn't have MapQuest and, you know, Waze. You had to like use maps to figure out where you were going. So
because in the UK,
I think that's really a cute story.
It is very cute. It's lovely childhood memories. In the UK, we'd go around on bicycles. Kids would go around, 10, 11-year-olds, and actually, you see it in American films. You see kids going around and they've got the paper. And they go.
What I'm talking about, though, is like commercial,
the front garden
machines, you know, in front of courthouses and schools. Like we're talking moving major amounts of newspapers here.
Do you think it's sad, Leo, that children these days aren't having weekend jobs, Saturday jobs? I remember my first ever girlfriend, Charlotte. Hello, Charlotte. She used to work every Saturday in a cafe, the sandwich shop, my favourite sandwich shop, Quick Snack it was called. But yeah, you don't really see it anymore. You don't see youngsters, 14, 15-year-olds working like that anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's good for young people to work and to learn the value of money, because I think it sort of gives you more discipline and self-worth. And also when you're earning money, you realise that, you know, socialism isn't the answer. You know, somebody coming along and taking 75% of your paycheck to give to lazy people isn't isn't the answer. Whereas if you don't have a job, you probably think that's a good idea. And I think that sort of, instilling that discipline in young people is really important. So many young people just see, they want to use a sort of a cheat to get rich and, go and what do you call it? Britain's Got Talent, or one of those talent shows, or some of them even look at OnlyFans and things like that, and think that's the way to do it, or Andrew Tate. And I think really you need to work hard and have discipline and not do anything like that.
Great point, Niall. Maybe the paper round is being wiped out by kids who want to be YouTubers or influencers, or
they want to make fast cash and not have to work hard to do it, and that's
sad.
That's what's killing this society.
I think there's that, and also, of course, I think a huge problem in the UK today is the relentless rise of the welfare state, the welfare system. I mean, it's at the very heart, I think, of the destruction of Britain. And we do need to get people back to work, frankly. And I'm reminded of the great man Norman Tebbit, who was a very close member of Margaret Thatcher's team. And Norman Tebbit's message was always, get on your bike, basically, and work hard. And that's a message, I think, for Britain today, when you have unprecedented numbers of people actually who are not working in the UK. A large percentage of them, of course, are migrants to Britain as well. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. The problem is, people these days, they want the perfect job. They come out of uni, or they have an idea maybe as a younger child and think, I want to do this, and they shun everything else. I remember stacking shelves in Sainsbury's. I did loads of jobs I didn't want to be doing. Loads of jobs. You just got to earn some money, get in the workforce, and just graft and work, and then hope something, a door would open up.
Clean some toilets, scrub some floors. I mean, they really need to learn how to do this anyway for their own housekeeping and maintenance.
Well,
some of these things that these kids don't even know how to do, and they go off on their own, like washing laundry and doing things like that, is ridiculous.
Pseudo-Mass on your say said, I think we need to reinstate chimney cleaning as a requirement for every child from the age of 7. So I'll leave you with that bombshell. Right, Leo, thank you for your company tonight, my friend. Appreciate you very much. Have a great half-term, whatever you're up to. Niall, thank you. Laurie, thank you. Viewers and listeners, thank you as well. I'm back again tomorrow from midnight in the UK. For now, sweet dreams, good night, have a great Tuesday. See you tomorrow. Mwah. Bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. It's going to be another very hot day for parts of England and Wales today. Most of the country seeing plenty of sunshine, and that heat may give way to a few thunderstorms later this afternoon. So out there, first thing this morning, we do have some cloud across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe 1 or 2 sprinkles of rain here. But for England and Wales, a sunny morning, and that's going to give way to another very warm, if not hot, afternoon to come, especially across the far south of the country. Could see highs again reaching 34 or 35 degrees. A very exceptional spell of heat for the time of year. A little bit fresher further north, so a bit more comfortable here with temperatures reaching the low 20s. Into this evening, as I mentioned, we could potentially just see a few thunderstorms break out, but I think most of us remaining dry across the south with some plenty of late evening sunshine, and a fairly quiet evening to come across Northern Ireland and Scotland too, although we could continue to see some cloud across eastern Scotland, and that may again just give the odd spit and spot of rain. Overnight, very little changes. The cloud across eastern Scotland will spread its way a little bit further south to encompass parts of northern England. But for most of us, it's a fairly quiet night. Under the clear skies, we may just see the odd fog patch form, but especially across the south, another very warm night to come. Quite uncomfortable to sleep for some of us, but a little bit fresher further north, so certainly a bit more comfortable to sleep across Scotland. Into Wednesday, we will see a change in the east on Wednesday, picking up a bit more of a breeze here, so temperatures certainly much lower here compared to recent days, and that may again trigger the odd shower. The cloud across eastern parts of Scotland and northern England will gradually work its way back towards the coastline as the day goes on, with the best of the sunshine out towards the western half of the UK. And it's here where we see the highest of the temperatures. Again, we could see low 30s across the southwest, but certainly a little bit fresher down towards the southeast.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on